Hello, my absolutely brilliant and beautiful astrology soulmates. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Stormie Grace, and this is your horoscope for July of 2025. Now, first of all, if you are new or you've been here for a while, timestamps for every single sign are in the description box down below. And I want you to make sure you click down there and check it out so that you can go right to what it is that you want to listen to. But first of all, talking about this month, let's talk about how electric it is. Uranus is moving into Gemini this month. This is unexpected awakenings, things getting cleared out, where things have been on the fence and we haven't quite known where it's going to go or how it's going to change its direction. Uranus moving into Gemini is going to act as the great awakener that it is. And this is not an energy where we need to be afraid of it. Right? We don't need to be afraid of it. We need to be afraid of staying stuck in something that's not working. And instead, we have an opportunity to regard Uranus's move this month as the thing that gets things out of being stagnant. It brings life back to it, makes it flexible and lively, as opposed to rigid and lifeless and dying, right? If we stay stagnant, we're dying. So it's actually a brilliant month for one of those key players to be coming to the table. Now, we're also going to have Mercury retrograding in Leo this month. So it is a month where I think it's interesting. The sky is simultaneously growing up and out, and also like asking us to step back and kind of contract and look at what we've learned and have this integration. Because Mercury is not the only planet that's going to go retrograde. We're also going to see Neptune and Saturn, who have recently stepped into Aries, giving us that particular burst of energy moving forward, getting our initiation going. Now it's going to slide back and we have a chance to review where we're having some real revelations on the lives that we want to create, the directions that we want to go. And I do believe that each of us needs this right now. We've stepped forward into something, we're trying something new, and we've gotten a sense of what that is, right? Like a shape and a texture of it. But there's still these things where we're like, hold on, maybe I'm not exactly clear on it, or I feel really clear, but there's this other obstacle kind of in the way. And so we'll have these energies as they are all working together this month, giving us a chance to have an insight and pop forward, but also step back and review so that we make sure we're pointing ourselves truly in the direction that we want to go. Now, Venus is a major player this month as well, making 2 sign changes here in July. And that means our ability to attract with these particular qualities of Gemini and Cancer are going to be massive for us. So we're going to be paying a lot of attention to what's going on in each and every single one of the dates that I have broken down for you. I love to tell you to get your chart. This is a general reading, right? Everything you're going to hear on YouTube, unless it's your chart up on the screen, is going to be a general reading. So do yourself a favor, make sure you have your chart, because the best astrology is your astrology. You want to know where this is happening in your chart. Now, you can click in my description box down below and grab a chart that comes from me. I love it. It's easy to read. Plus, you get a little report, or you can go online and get one as well. Whatever you do, make sure you have your own particular chart. And listen, friends, I'm super excited because the astrology that we're going to talk about this month is not just about learning the astrology. Some of you are ready to share and teach your astrology, and you have been ready for a while. I love Pluto in Aquarius. It has given birth to new astrologers. Some of them are over the age of 30, and some of them were just born. But some of you are ready to teach and share your astrology or share your message. And so because of that, and by request, I'm doing an extra live session of the YouTube Breakthrough Challenge this year. I only teach this a couple times a year live, but through request, full house, full class, I'm doing another one here in August, and you can sign up for that in the description box down below. I will show you how to bring your message online and how to use YouTube, not as a place to gain followers and power and all of these things, but how you can use it to make impact, and how it also can serve, now that we're in the digital revolution, as a real resource for your life. So if that's you, I would love to see you in any one of my courses. And to tell you what, Doing it different with Uranus in Gemini. July is the month to give it a go. Now, listen, friends, you're going to have this month absolutely broken down by every date based on your particular sun, moon, or rising sign, depending on what you're listening for. But what you aren't going to get in there is what's happening in the global view of the energies for July. And for that, we've invited our friend Dan Waits over. So let's take a second to hear about what's going on in the global energies for July in the Mundane Minute.
Hi, Stormie and everyone out there. This is Dan from World Astrology Report, and I'm here with a Mundane Minute for July of 2025. Before I talk about what's new in July, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge where we are now, because at the end of May, Saturn moved into Aries, one of the two signs of Mars, the planet we associate with war. Saturn adds pressure wherever we find it, and unfortunately, but not surprisingly to astrologers, what we've seen since that ingress is much more conflict around the world and much more intensity in those conflicts that are already underway. In the US, we're starting to see political divisions erupting into protest, including some that have turned violent. We saw a big escalation in the war in Ukraine, with Ukraine attacking Russia's bomber fleet with drones and Russia launching massive attacks on Kiev. And we're now seeing Israel and Iran attacking each other, and potentially the start of another big conflict over there that many people have been worried about. So things are already getting really intense. But in July, we're going to see another of the year's big shifts when Uranus moves into Gemini. Uranus is an unpredictable influence that tends to upend expectations, disrupt stagnant systems, and bring revolutionary change. Since 2018, it's been in slow-moving Earth sign Taurus, and that's not a sign where it can easily move fast and change things up, as it likes to do. But in Mercurial Gemini, that situation changes. Gemini is the sign associated with the accumulation of knowledge, communication, computation, and connection. And Uranus is going to bring rapid advances and turnarounds and disruptions to those areas. Now, it'll be in the sign for 7 years or so, but I think we'll see some clear signs of what this transit is going to be about pretty quickly. And honestly, it may be a pretty crazy month, because I get the sense that this sign change will be a great release of tension for Uranus. We could see natural disasters and a lot more conflict, unfortunately. Expect the unexpected, and don't be surprised if we start to see the world getting really weird. I'm thinking UFOs in the skies and incredible technological reveals and bizarre revelations about humanity's true history. That's it for now. Catch me on World Astrology Report for in-depth forecasts and videos on themes in mundane astrology. Thanks, everyone, and stay safe.
So as you can hear, beautiful friends, the global energies have a lot going on, and we can't always handle and have power over in the things that are happening globally, but we can take power in our own lives and in our own homes. So take this to heart as you are listening this month and as you're considering the weight of your choices. All right, let's jump into your July forecast. Click to those timestamps down below for all 12 signs. I love you a ton. Please interact with me in the comment section down below, and have a good July. Hello, my beautiful Aries friends, and welcome to your July 2025 horoscope. And Aries, July is like a deep personal reboot for you. I love that. This month is going to highlight a lot of the unraveling and reinvention, really, of your identity, your voice, and the way that you shine in the world. With Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, all active in your sign, this isn't just about change, and we've been talking a lot about that, but this is about healing the parts of you that have been performing strength instead of embodying it. You know, you're going to be asked also this month to slow down, to reflect, to reframe how you show up. Who are you beneath all of the roles, the responsibilities, the drive? These retrogrades that we're going to experience this month are a soul check-in. At the same time, your third and your fifth house gets lit up this month. So it's going to encourage those creative breakthroughs, a lot more joyful communication. And I think, and I like it, but that reconnection to your inner play, your inner child, right? So you're not, again, just healing. It's like rediscovering your fire. Career matters are going to come to a head for you, I think, about mid-month, and they're going to ask you to choose visibility. You need to be seen. It's time to be seen, but with a lot of integrity. And the sun and the new moon are going to shine in Leo. So you're being invited again back to that play. How do you play? How do you bring joy into even how you make a living? By the time we close out the month, Venus is going to soften your home life. So if you've got anything that needs to be handled at the end of the month that has to do with emotional truths or things like that, Venus is going to bring a bit of salve to help you be able to do that. So let's jump in here, Aries, and let's break down what the month has to offer to you. So right at the beginning of the month on the 4th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Gemini, lighting up your third house space. So as Venus moves into this space, communication becomes sweet, flirtatious, and magnetic. It's a wonderful, attracting energy. It's a time to reconnect with your own voice, your writing, maybe even smoothing things out with siblings or things with your neighbors or in your neighborhood. This is a wonderful time for that because Venus here wants to charm, but through words. Now, whether that's a new website, an ongoing conversation that's really engaging you and lighting up your mind, or it's a love note, Venus is fully at work here. For some of you, you may also feel called to honestly beautify your surroundings, or like you want to refresh how you present your ideas to the world, So if you've been sitting on a blog or a podcast or a conversation that you need to have, this is actually a little bit of a nudge. Because Venus in the third house also asks, are your words aligned with the values, right? So do the words match the values here? So use this transit as a time to speak more lovingly, write more freely, flirt where you need to, right? Maybe you're flirting and learning something new. Maybe you're even learning a new language, or you're speaking the language through a creative expression or music, whatever. The heart wants to talk as we're experiencing this transit. Now, avoid that gossip. If you can, avoid being passive aggressive. That's all going to be in your favor. On the same day, we've got Neptune stepping into its retrograde at just 2 degrees and 11 minutes of Aries. So this is lighting up that first house space. Now, with Neptune turning retrograde here, especially in the first house, you may be in the process of dissolving your identity, right? Dissolving some illusions around your identity, because Neptune in your sign has already been whispering and going, okay, we have these spiritual truths, we have these dreams, these longings, and that's been happening for months. But now it's time to look inward. You're going to be asked to remove the masks that you've outgrown, and it's not that they're bad. You've gone as far as they can take you is what it is, right? So this particular transit is a really powerful moment, I think, for you, Aries, to have this soul recognition, right? To have this opportunity where what you're coming to terms with, or what you're coming to see, is that who you are when nobody's watching. What's the truth there? What's the image of yourself that you've been chasing that was built more on a fantasy or necessity than authenticity? So this retrograde could also stir up, it's in your first house, some old feelings of confusion around your, you can't see me, but I'm making these quotes, purpose, or how others see you. But I don't want you to let that scare you, Aries. I want you to let it guide you into deeper alignment with what is your true nature. And what that will look like is avoiding people pleasing, right? Or pushing yourself to appear a certain way. Instead, let your identity soften where Neptune can help it soften, reform through that spiritual clarity, so that as you are showing up in true presence and not in any kind of the performance. That's going to be your absolute best bet as we experience this. Now, we're going to see Neptune being in its retrograde energy until 2026. We're going to get to March 31st of 2026, where it's fully out of its post-retrograde shadow time. Now, it will technically come direct December 10th of 2025, but I look at the full retrograde time. So we'll really be working on this until about spring of next year, Aries, okay? All right, July 7th, Uranus is entering into Gemini, and this is big news. This is lighting up that third house space I was talking to you about. So the third house gets a zip zap. It gets a zip zap as Uranus comes here into Gemini. And for you, this is like plugging your mind and your communication into an electric socket. So expect breakthroughs in how you think, how you speak, how you learn, right? How quickly the things that you say become things, right? Like words become things, okay? And this is going to begin a years long cycle of also upgrading your nervous system and your communication style. Now, really, we're training our nervous systems right now to handle higher levels of calm and relaxation and to receive. How do we receive? This is also going to be a really massive piece of the story. How you talk about yourself, Aries, how you speak about your life, especially if it's not true, that's going to stress out your nervous system. So bringing our words into alignment. Now, for some of you, you may suddenly crave a new language, right? The language of your nervous system. That could be one of them. Or you start to do more public speaking, or you feel this urge. Uranus is an urge where you radically want to shift how you express your ideas. So it's an ideal time to experiment with all the communication things, writing, tech, different kinds of education. For those of you who are already in formal education, you may find yourself being absolutely stretched, right, outside of your comfort zone of what you have normally been communicating. This could also, though, it is the third house. Stir up things in your neighborhood, stir up things with siblings. Many more of you might be like, nope, I just need to go on a little short distance trip, something like that. So just think about doing things in little micro steps or like micro mobility. This could be a thing for you as well. I will say that because this is the third house for you, Aries, it's pretty important that you do your best and put some precautions in place to avoid the mental burnout, especially if you're trying to multitask and you get into the space of multitask overload. Oof, that is going to be too much. So to the best of your ability, create space to process ideas before acting on everything that sparks up. Remember, your brain is so lit up right now that discernment is going to be the key. On the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, lighting up your 10th house space. So this full moon is lighting up the public part of your chart, your career, your visibility, your legacy, the reputation that we call you in public. So something is coming to a climax in your public life. A project could finish, a goal could be achieved, a truth about the path that you want to be on could be really well illuminated. For some of you, the name that we call you in public could be changing. You know, maybe we called you married and now we call you single. Maybe we called you mother and now we call you grandmother, right? Like the title we even know you at can be changing. So this is a moment to, first of all, stand in your power. Stand in your power, Aries, claim your authority, but also to release those outdated titles or roles that no longer reflect your current reality or what you're growing into. If you've been chasing status over soul, this lunation may be a wake-up call. If you've been in one career and then you've retired from it, but you've been having a hard time kind of letting it go, this will be a wake-up call. Release it. So it's a great place at this full moon to ask yourself, is my professional life or is my title built around some kind of external validation, or is it that true internal integrity? Right? Because when you're at this full moon, letting go of what no longer is true or no longer serves your future self, even once you've made the decision to accept that, you can start to feel a lot more secure. On the 13th, Saturn is now going to step into retrograde at 1 degrees and 56 minutes of Aries. That again is happening in your first house space. And I think that whenever we deal with Saturn as one of our tutor planets and our timekeepers, it's a sacred pause. It's a sacred pause, right? The structures you have been building in your identity, your body, how you approach life in general, they're all under review as Saturn goes into this retrograde. So Saturn wants you to mature in your self-leadership and in your self-governing. So this is a really potent transit. It's a time to examine how you assert yourself, for sure. This is Aries energy, right? But also, how do you carry and think about responsibility? Whether your independence is actually aligned with your being of your soul, or is this just ego, right? Like, have you been overcompensating in some way or underestimating yourself? I love that about Saturn work because Saturn will show you. So you have this time during this retrograde, which is going to go all the way until November 27th of this year, to use this retrograde to refine your goals, recommit to some kind of personal discipline, and to build a more authentic foundation for who you're becoming, because it's less about proving. You don't need to prove, you need to be. And if you've been doing this, Aries, I just want to throw this in here as a side note, but if you've been pushing through exhaustion or denying your actual need to rest and reflect, I think that this pause becomes more powerful to use it that way, to reflect on how you can make an adjustment to that. And we've got another retrograde up on the table. On the 18th, we've got Mercury going retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo. This is going to light up your fifth house space. So this is an invitation for you to revisit how you express and experience joy, pleasure, play, romance, creativity, your relationship with risk, things happening for your children. What I don't think that this is time to do, unless you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, that may be, not for sure, but it may be a different story. But I don't think that this is the time to launch your masterpiece. But I think it's a brilliant time to rehearse it, reimagine it, rewrite it, or edit it if that's what needs to happen. For some of you, old flames. They can just come back. It doesn't necessarily mean they come back in person, but they come creeping to your mind or to your inbox or something like that. But also, if you've had creative blocks or there was a passion for something that you really have had in your life or you did for a time, it can return. And it's about the return coming for healing, right? Your child or your inner child may want to play more or to speak out about things, especially where joy has been missing. And for many people, to live and move and have their being in joy, pleasure, and play is a real risk. It's a very fifth house kinds of thing. So this is a perfect time for you, as you're experiencing this, to go inward and ask, when is the last time I, in my beautiful Aries energy, created something just for the hell of it? Just for fun and for free. Whether that's art, dance, performance, passion, whatever. When is the last time you did your fire just for the love of it? So this will be a great time to look at that during this Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is going to stay retrograde all the way until we get through August 11th. It'll come direct, but the full retrograde cycle is going to be August 25th of 2025. Now, on the 22nd, we've got the sun moving into Leo, lighting up that fifth house space. So a little bit more energy coming over here, bringing the sun brings light, heat, life, and motivation. So it lights up again that joy center, the season of confidently playing, confidently radiating joy, expressing yourself in a way that is about being seen and being alive, very, very fiery. It is a powerful time to do and say the things with your chest out, because if you've been hiding your fire or waiting for some kind of permission to shine, this is the time to do it. Now, we do have to make sure that all that fire does not burn your life to the ground. So if you can avoid being arrogant, or if you feel like you're overcompensating, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But also, if you're the smartest person in the room and you're telling us all about how smart you are, you might be overcompensating for something that maybe you had a lot of previous visibility around, but that's not your truth anymore, right? Your true power radiates from the inside. So keep that in mind. Okay, July 24th, we've got a new moon. And that's going to be happening at 2 degrees of Leo. So you see, this fifth house is rocking and rolling. This is an opportunity to have that sacred reset that we get at the new moon. Plant your seeds of intention on how you create joy, pleasure, play, love, and celebrate your life, right? It's a moment to start fresh with your heart, with passion projects. Your children in the fifth house may be having their own fresh starts that are coming out of this time. So plant your intentions here to express yourself more boldly. Go back to activities that spark joy in you. Clean out, be Marie Kondo, hold it. Does this bring me joy, right? But the whole point is to plant your seeds of intention on something that will allow you to be seen and that you can be proud of 6 months from now. All right. And I will say, I think that if this is the area of your life, this lunation is powerful for fertility. So if you are trying to have kids, make kids, adopt children, whatever that is, this could be a very big piece of your desired manifestation timing. As we get to the 30th, we've got another busy day. First, we've got Venus now moving into the vibration of Cancer. This lights up your 4th house space. This is where I was saying at the end of the month, if you got things to do at home, around home, about home, Venus is going to bring a softness and a sweetness into that home life, a little bit of a salve, right? So it's a beautiful time to, first of all, make your space feel like a sanctuary. Reconnect with your family, reconnect with prioritizing emotional nourishment. Maybe you want a little bit more privacy or rootedness. You know, you're like, I just want to be at home and cook my meals and be in my peace. Now, the one thing I would say you maybe want to avoid doing is picking up any emotional labor that's not actually yours. So be mindful of that. Allow yourself to receive and be soothed. Now, at the same time, Chiron is going to go retrograde at 27 degrees, of that Aries energy. So you might be at the house and or with your family or something around that, and this Chiron energy is bringing up old wounds around yourself, your identity, how you've been seen or presented yourself in the world. So it can be an energy where you do feel exposed, you know, or like past insecurities are coming up again. But this is not about a regression. I want to be very clear. At this point, at 27 degrees of Chiron's retrograde, this is not about regression. It's about seeing where you've been and where you are. And I think it's a path to real healing. You know, now is the time to look very compassionately at the moments where you felt like you were not enough, where you felt like you've been too much, you are unworthy for being loved just as you are, where this story is still being held in your body, and let this retrograde help you rewrite them. It's an amazing time for sponsorship, therapy, inner child work, somatic healing, reclaiming your personal power through your body. You know, the fact is, Aries, you are here to say, I get to be here, damn it. And we love that. But you don't have to fight for your right to exist. You already do. You already do. You are taking up that beautiful space. So just remember, as we're closing out the month and you're having this experience, healing at this point is going to actually come more through softness than through pretending nothing hurts, through toughing it out, through any of those things, okay? All right, my beautiful Aries, I think you have an amazing month on your hands. You've been gifted some more time, so let's use it very, very well. Let me know how the month is going for you in the comment section down below. Beautiful Taurus friends, and welcome to your July 2025 horoscope, where July invites you into a month, I think, Taurus, of some kind of internal reckoning and kind of a quiet revolution for yourself, because there's this kind of deep cosmic whisper that's coming from your 12th house where all that Aries energy is going on. So things that are in hidden realms of the psyche, things going on behind the scenes. So it's asking you to surrender what's no longer honestly spiritually aligned. Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, they're all turning you inwards because they're going to retrograde in this space, making it a really really powerful time for you this month for releasing things. Release those past burdens, release that unconscious fear. If there are soul contracts that have quietly been shaping your path, this will be a good time to let those go. Now, there is momentum brewing this month as well in your second house. Yes, the house of money, your values, how you make money, because Uranus is going to enter into Gemini, and it is a huge transit for the year. So new ideas, sudden changes, inspiration, they can all be coming your way. What you want to remember is that it's not just about how you make money, how you interact with money. It's going to be why and from what frequency, Taurus, you are making that money. We'll talk more about that. Now, your home life is going to have a little bit of attention mid-month because Mercury's going to retrograde, then the sun's going to come in, then we've got a new moon, so you'll be asked to take a look at that, okay? Transformative month, as they all, I think, are. But the thing to remember, Taurus, is that you are a Venusian. None of this stuff this year is going to come from pushing forward. It's going to come from surrender, receiving, and tuning in to trust that deeper Venusian vibe. Okay, let's break down your dates. Now, right here on July 4th at the beginning of the month, busy day. First of all, we've got Venus entering into Gemini, lighting up your second house. So Venus being your ruling planet, it's going to roll into Gemini in the second house, and your values start to take on a new flavor. We love flavor as the Taurus crew, don't we? So this is a beautiful time for you, Taurus, to explore my favorite thing, multiple streams of income. Do your money like a Gemini, right? Maybe flirt with some new income streams, flirt with a new talent that you have, or a talent you just haven't shared with the world yet. Discover how you enjoy and the pleasure of exchanging ideas, because Venus in Gemini is not really about locking into one thing. It's about exploring the many facets of your worth. And so one of the things I would bring your attention to as well is, the multiple ways you allow yourself to receive. What does this look like for you? How do you allow money to flow to you? How do you allow the things that you want to flow to you based on the aesthetic you present to the outside world? Maybe you're going to find yourself a little bit more drawn to shopping, refreshing your look, investing in tools that help you to communicate better, including your style. But even deeper than that, I would say that this transit is going to ask you very deeply, what is your mental and physical and nervous system relationship to receiving? Because if you can hold more abundance, it's going to come to you. Also on the 4th, we've got Neptune stepping into a retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. This lights up your 12th house space. So it's entering that space of reflection. Now, the 12th house governs the unconscious, the dream worlds, our deepest spiritual truths, our own undoings. So Neptune here can feel like a prayer. It can also feel like a fog, depending on your relationship with surrender. So now as Neptune is going to be in this retrograde, it's going to invite you to look at what you've been avoiding, Taurus. Old grief. Ancestral stories may begin to surface for healing or for you to go, I've been delusional. Why am I carrying this ancestral story? It's not mine anymore. A vision that you had for something and it's like you forgot, or you fell asleep on it. If you've been escaping, Taurus, into work or some kind of control, this retrograde is going to remind you nice and slow, nice and soft, that stillness is where your guidance lives. So it's an excellent time for meditation, therapy, solitude, dream work. Whatever it is, you're reconnecting during this retrograde with a part of your spirit that I think has been slowly calling to you softly, and now it wants your full attention. And we're going to be in this retrograde until December 10th, but the full retrograde until March 31st of 2026. Now, when we get to the 7th, Uranus enters into Gemini, and this is a major transit for the year. It's a major long-term shift because we're going to have Uranus in the space going forward, moving backwards, going forward, moving backwards until really 2033. So we've got some time invested in this particular set of energy, and it's going to begin to shake up your second house of money, security, and values. Now, this energy, like I said, is going to last for years, but July is your first preview of what is to come. Suddenly, you may crave more financial freedom, or you feel called to monetize something in a totally new way, right? You shift from fixed income to those flexible income streams. You could also be experiencing some real sudden shifts in your self-worth, right? Or you start to become more interested in seeing what you can do with teaching, with tech, with things having to do with more groupings, more communication based work. Things like this could really start to have more of your attention. So it's a perfect transit over the next few years, just jumping off now, to get an update to your relationship with money. Not just how you earn it, but how you value it, how you value your time, how you value your energy, how you value your ideas. Because you may discover that in the slowdown and in this little bit of electric energy flowing through you, that what makes you unique is really what makes you valuable. Okay. All right. When we get to the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, lighting up your 9th house space. So this full moon is going to ask you to end something, acknowledge something, or make an adjustment to your 9th house of publishing, marketing, broadcasting, international business, legal things. But more important, I think, are your beliefs and your wisdom. So to me, Taurus, when I look at July for you and I look at this full moon, something is changing in your worldview. It's reaching this point of either closure, where it's like, okay, I don't believe that anymore, or a lot of clarity. For some of you who are in that higher education or certificate training kind of space, you could be completing that course. Others of you are going to publish a project. You're going to just have this opportunity with all the light under the full moon energy to experience this shift in what you have believed about yourself, about the world, about certain structures that you hadn't had before. So it's a beautiful time to recognize, how far you've come spiritually and intellectually, Taurus, because it's been a journey. It's been a journey, and now is a time to integrate the lessons, And if you've been living off of a philosophy that's outdated, or a set of rules that are just not working out anymore, they're not helping you win the game of life, the moon may be asking you to let it go. This is coming in just a little bit, so I'm going to put it in here, but some of you may be receiving some important guidance from someone who's like a mentor or a guide, and their purpose would specifically be to take you to something bigger, something, you're more public, maybe even in some way. Okay, on the 13th, we've got Saturn retrograding at 1 degree of Aries, 56 minutes. So that again is in your 12th house space. And Saturn is like the karmic librarian. And it's calling you back to the archives. It's like, get in here. We need to talk about some things. And it doesn't mean that it's bad, right? But it is a time to review the unconscious patterns, those ancestral burdens, those soul contracts, Taurus, that you've been carrying, and decide which ones you are ready to release, right? So many of you Taurus energies are going to find out you've been carrying an old story that is not yours to carry anymore, and you're going to release it. I can't wait. Now, to say though, this time can be intense. It can be intense emotionally, right? So I think that's something we don't want to skip past, because especially if you've been avoiding deep spiritual or deep emotional work, Saturn here is going to have you looking at it. And Saturn here is going to reward discipline for your healing, right? If you've been in therapy, sobriety, doing the shadow work, this retrograde is going to support you in committing or recommitting to that progress. And what you get from it is going to take you so far. Now, you may also need more solitude while this is happening. Now, we're going to be in this Saturn retrograde all the way until November. So if you do find yourself being like, "Ooh, I do need a little bit more retreat time," you're not broken. There's just a lot of refining happening over here. July 18th is going to bring us to the Mercury retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo, lighting up your 4th house space. So please make sure you have got your own personal natal chart so that you can really have a look at where this is playing out and what's going on for you. Okay, you really want to see where this is happening in your chart. Now, Mercury retrograding through this area of your chart is going to bring your attention back to home, family, real estate, property, emotional safety, old conversations around your childhood, a living situation, relationship with your parents or your roots. These things could be coming back up because you may be feeling being called to reconnect with family. Or maybe you're reorganizing a space. Listen, I'm a Taurus. I'm renovating my parents' home, So what are you maybe being called to confront in terms of something that's unresolved, whether that's emotions or physical space from the past? It's a beautiful time as you're going through this. Journal. Clear out that emotional clutter. Even if you're doing a home renovation, delays are possible, but sometimes the delay is just emotional. For some of you, I do believe as well that this reflection time can have a lot to do with your sense of belonging, right? Home is the space that makes you feel like home, even if it's not physically, but it's just energetically. You could definitely be reviewing that. Now, on the 22nd, we see the sun enter into Leo, so bringing light, heat, life, and vitality, putting a spotlight on this home energy. And again, it's a season of restoration, but you're invited here to return to what kind of home truly nourishes you, not just in your body, but also in your spirit. And this may honestly be the season where you're like, nope, I'm just trying to be at home with my candles, with my meal, with my family. You're doing things around your lineage. It's a time for your story. It's just a time to really shine inwards. Now, to further support that, on July 24th, we've got a new moon happening at 2 degrees, and this is a reset. Plant your seeds of intention here, Taurus, around home, family, security, how you nurture and care for yourself, your parents. You may feel called to change up your living space. This is like another energy that's calling you there. For some of you, you may be being called to set some boundaries to protect your peace. You're like, you are stressing my nervous system out. No, thank you. So it's a powerful time to reconnect with that. But plant your seeds of intention to feel soft but empowered. You don't have to be loud to be sovereign, okay? On the 30th, very busy day as we're going to close out the month. Venus is entering into Cancer, and we're also going to see that Chiron is going to go retrograde in Aries. But Venus moving now into your third house, just gliding her beautiful way over there, is first of all going to soften your words. So this is a beautiful transit for any kind of writing with emotion, expressing your love through these beautiful, gentle gestures, calling with your words. Remembering our words can be seen as spells, right? Have you read the 4 Agreements? It's free on YouTube. You can use your words to gently call into you what you want. It's a very heartfelt communication energy. So you may feel more affectionate in your third house area as well, with your siblings, with your neighbors, with your friends. The conversations that you're having may take on a much more nurturing tone, or you feel like you're just connecting and sharing on something that's really deep and personal. Let love lead right out of your mouth as you are traveling here on the 30th. Now, we'll also see that Chiron's going to take this retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, again, back in this 12th house space. Now, this can open up the gate, Taurus, of some hidden wounds. Now, remember, in the 12th house, we're not conscious necessarily of these. So there could be waves of grief, or just like an unexplainable emotion that is coming up. It's needing to be processed. It can be sometimes existential fatigue. You're like, am I there yet? I just want to say, as a very earthy energy, you like to see and know the progress. But these things are not signs of failure, Taurus. They're invitations to heal what you don't know that you're still carrying. Sometimes we need an energy to come along and help us see this. So this is going to be very Aries for you. It's a time of spiritual courage. You're facing your inner child. You're facing a society of old beliefs. You're facing these parts of you that learned to hide because it was too scary to come out here. You're giving voice to those parts of your spirit that have felt forgotten. So use this retrograde for some beautiful, spiritual, but also somatic healing. Come back to those hips. Be in the Venus Reset program if you're not already in it. Go to the therapy, the dreams, the silent rituals. You're not alone. You are so deeply and spiritually supported as well, okay? All right, my beautiful Tauran friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Please let me know how your journey is shaping up, playing out, and I look forward to reading your comments in the comment section down below. Beautiful Gemini friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025. And Gemini, this is your month to break free, okay? July brings you this kind of cosmic homecoming as both Uranus and Venus are going to enter into your sign, lighting up your first house and activating this massive reinvention energy. How do you express yourself? How do you present yourself? How do you embody yourself? So this is a rebirth. And it's not just like a rebirth, Gemini, in terms of like your style or your presence, but I think that this is just such a refresh to your whole identity. Now listen, as a Taurus who survived Uranus in Taurus, I'm going to tell you the glow up was real. So I cannot wait to see what you do with Uranus in particular in your sign, because who you are becoming. Now, the question is going to be, can your nervous system handle receiving it? Can your nervous system speak from a place of power in your voice, in your energy that matches everything you're in alignment with? It's going to be so cool. Now, at the same time this month, there's these deeper undercurrents that are flowing through your 11th house. We've got Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron that are all going to be retrograding there, asking you, Gemini, to reimagine your relationship to community, to your tribe, where you belong, and certainly what is actually your role in the collective, right? Are you chasing money, external validation, especially in groups that are no longer resonant for you? Or are you ready to contribute something that is spot on and really, really meaningful? We will have Mercury retrograding this month. We'll also have the sun and a new moon happening here, lighting up your third house space. So how you speak, how you teach, how you share and gather your ideas, these will all be an area we're going to be looking through this month as well. So this month is a breakthrough, Gemini. It's a little wild, it's a little weird, but it is definitely a shift, and I think you've been waiting for it. So let's jump in here and break the month down. Now, right at the beginning of the month on the 4th, it is a busy energy because first of all, we've got Venus coming into your first house. Now, this doesn't feel busy and crazy. It's kind of smooth. It's actually really delicious. And when Venus comes to your first house, the spotlight is on you. Your presence becomes more magnetic. Your voice is compelling. Your aesthetic is more alluring. So it's a wonderful, attracting energy. So this is a great time to update your wardrobe, update those profile photos, add, like a soft little rebrand to yourself, to your products, to these kinds of things. And it's more about just being in alignment with your evolving identity. You know what I mean? Because remember, dress the way you want to be addressed. Right? Put out pictures the way that you want to be addressed or regarded. You set a standard of how you wish to be valued based on your values with your Venus. And Venus is here to bring some ease and some charm to your personal interactions. So if you feel a little bit more flirtatious, you feel a little bit more social, you're a little bit more in love with yourself, finally, love that for you, let that radiance come through as Venus is traveling through here. Now, we're also going to have on the same day that Neptune's going to turn retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. So please, Gemini, make sure you're grabbing your chart. Where is that 2 degrees of Aries? In the general, it lights up your 11th house space. So as Neptune is retrograding in your 11th house, your vision for the future gets a bit blurry, right? But it gets blurry so that it can get clearer. This retrograde is going to invite you to reflect on the communities that you are a part of, the social media platforms you're a part of, the social roles you've taken on, and I think really importantly, the ideals that you have been projecting onto your goals, right? Because Neptune, as it was moving forward here, may have encouraged you to kind of merge with collective, merge with causes or friend groups that seemed really spiritually supporting. But now you're finding out as the veil lifts a little bit, this is not actually my tribe, or engaging this way is not what's right for me. So you're asked to distinguish between being a bit more genuine in that connection from what's really the illusion. So you can really use this retrograde to realign your dreams and your contributions, making sure that your goals match who you're actually becoming and that your friendships are nourishing. Make sure those friendships are nourishing. Or do you feel like you're disappearing inside of your tribe, what's supposed to be a supportive place? On the 7th, we've got Uranus entering into your sign, and it is huge. I am telling you, I made it through that Uranus in Taurus, and it was massive coming over my sun energy. I am wildly different. So Uranus being the awakener coming into your sign for the first time in over 80 years, it starts a long journey of a lot of electric discovery. So this isn't just a glow up. This is not a glow up. This is a full on personal revolution. The way you think, your identity shifts, your ideas around your body autonomy, your tech enhanced embodiment comes to the surface. There's a radical freedom for you in how you're going to show up. And it may seem so old school. Taking on something that's really old actually gives you freedom. I can't wait to see what you find out. But what I can tell you is expect the unexpected. Your appearance, your lifestyle, your nervous system, they're all about to shift really dramatically, especially if you've been living on someone else's dream or an old dream or old terms. You're being rebooted here, Gemini style. Fast, clever, future forward minded. So it's a beautiful time to lean into this innovation. Embrace for the next 7 years that you've got to be flexible and go with a lot of experimentation in your image and your schedule and all of these things, right? Like try out a routine and be like, I don't really know if this is the routine, but I'm going to give it a try. Try out a tech thing and say, I don't know if this is really the thing, but I'm going to give it a try. Now, the thing you have to be mindful of, and we all do when we work with Uranus, is overstimulation or trying to fix yourself. You're not broken. You're just getting ready to have an evolution that is faster than maybe your guardian angels can keep up with. So keep your eyes on the prize, okay? All right, on the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, and this is going to light up your 8th house space. Now, the full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or make an adjustment because all the lights are on. So this full moon could be bringing a sense of closure to something very intimate or very hidden, or, like where you're deeply bonded to another resource. So themes for you that can be coming up are trust, power, sexuality, finances, shared resources, death, debt, taxes. All of it's kind of coming to a head or getting the light shown on it. Now, Gemini, if you have been entangled in some kind of emotional contract, this moon could break the spell. It's very Capricornian. It gets very practical. It starts asking practical questions about what is going on. Some of you may experience something that is like, a realization around control or fear or dependency, and it's kind of cathartic as it's happening. And it's not about burning the bridge. This is going to be about a realization that helps you choose sovereignty. The 8th house is a financial house, so I can't skip out on talking about that. But financially, this moon could signal some kind of debt resolution, maybe the end of a joint financial tie that you have, or you're getting a payout, or you're giving a payout, or something like that. But spiritually connected to that money, it can feel like something's dying, right? Like you're having a death and rebirth kind of moment. So there's a lot of layers of identity falling away or falling into place with this particular lunation. On the 13th, we're going to see Saturn go retrograde at 1 degrees of Aries. And this is, again, lighting up that 11th house space and bringing your attention to your tribes, your groups, your social responsibility. But Saturn is also in charge of your long-term goals. Okay, it's very legacy energy. So if you have been chasing popularity, conformity, some kind of surface level belonging, or you've been trying to do things to be shocking to get yourself seen, Saturn will slow you down. right? Because it's going to ask you from the ground up, from the roots, what are you building and who is it for? So, in that, you may realize that certain networks, certain friendships, even certain ambitions that you had for yourself, and they were the ambition, right? But they're no longer matching not just your emotional and personhood maturity, but your soul maturity. And I just want to say to you that that's okay. Retrogrades are for refinement. They're not about rejection. They're just for refining. So use this time, recommit, recommit to authentic collaborations, ones that are value driven to the vision that you actually had, because Saturn here it's not going to reward the hype. It doesn't really care about the hype. You're going to get your 15 minutes of hype, but Saturn here rewards consistency. On the 18th, we've got Mercury stepping into retrograde in that Leo energy at 15 degrees. Again, make sure you have your chart. Now, Mercury, your ruler, turning retrograde, the mind is buzzing. But clarity in the third house is going to take a little bit of patience with this retrograde. Old ideas, old conversations, old writing projects, they can come back. Misunderstandings with siblings, neighbors, inside of a contract, maybe even people that you communicate with daily. There can be more misunderstandings. So it's a powerful time to remember that when the communication planet is facing backwards, things are going to take an extra minute. It's a powerful time to reflect on your voice. When you're speaking, are you being heard the way that you intend? Again, this question of authenticity. Are you speaking from authenticity or from some kind of old habit? So if you're feeling called to revisit or rework some kind of communication-based project, course, text message, branding, even for some of you, this is going to be the time to get that done. Now, on the 22nd, the sun is going to enter into Leo. And on the 24th, we've got a new moon happening in Leo. So you've got a lot of motivation that is turning your mind into a lot of brilliance. Okay. You're going to be teaching, you're going to be speaking, you're going to be having this reconnecting, and then you can plant your seeds of intention to help you with that expression, help you with your storytelling so that you can tell your story with your chest out, right? The kind of connection that could blossom into something powerful over the next 6 months because you're really ready to take a risk and launch something out there. Maybe you're starting that podcast. Maybe you're writing that newsletter. Maybe you're committing to a journaling practice or a course. Your voice is a gift. That's my point here. And the lunation and all of the energy over here is about trusting it. Now, on the 30th, as we're going to close out the month, it's our next busy day. We first of all got Venus now sliding out of your sign and moving into Cancer, lighting up your second house of value, of how you allow money to flow to you from your creative talents. What is it that you value? Your self-worth. Physical security sometimes can live here. So Venus is bringing this wave of softness and support to you around these things. So it's a time to nourish your income through, not through stress and strain, but definitely going through more softness, more creativity, more care. If you feel like you're being a little bit more called to be a bit indulgent in like creature comforts, very Cancerian things, you want to update your space, you want to treat yourself in meaningful ways. This is where I think Venus wants to help you feel that value and bring it into your space, not go out and like have to prove your value anymore. Okay. And also listen, it's just a really nice time to align your finances with what you really value and what you really need today. Getting a lot of emotional intelligence around your money is a great thing during this transit. Now, behind that, we've got Chiron going retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, again, lighting up this 11th house space. So Chiron here can bring up old wounds around friendship, your tribe, your community, how you're able to be visible in some kind of community. Like you remember those times where you felt like an outsider, or you felt like you weren't enough, or you were too much. But what I want to say is at 27 degrees, Chiron's been working on this identity wound for all of us for quite some time, but now is not the time to retreat. Chiron is more advanced at 27 degrees. It's time to actively heal. This retrograde is helping you more quickly make that shift from seeking that approval to embracing what your authentic contribution is, even if it's not loud and proud and you're the biggest voice in the room. You don't need to fit in. You just need to show up as you, Gemini. And that is really where I think this Chiron's healing is powerful, because you know it more quickly. So this particular retrograde, I think, is going to be a really potent time for seeing, first of all, not just doing it, but seeing how much trauma from things of the past are actually cleaned up and cleared up for you, where you've needed to forgive old hurts in social groupings or friendships or things like that, where you feel more comfortable realigning, or maybe aligning for the first time with some kind of collective vision that's actually in alignment with your soul maturity. This is going to be the time to do that. Now, I'm going to tell you, I think that things not to do. Don't ghost your community. Don't ghost your community. Depending on your level of advancement on your lesson scale, the craving to kind of collapse into isolation can be here. But I would instead encourage you to let the discomfort be a teacher, not a cage for you. Okay. Now we're going to be in retrograde with Chiron until January 2nd of 2026, but then really the full post retrograde shadow time is not going to be done until April. So you have time to review is the full point here. All right, my absolutely beautiful Gemini friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. I love you a ton, and I will see you next month. Hello, my beautiful Cancer friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where Cancer this month is a soul deep month of these delicious, quiet breakthroughs and really powerful, I think, reclamations, right? Like you are claiming it back because you're doing a lot of inner work, and we don't want to mistake that inner work for inaction. It's not the same thing. Right? That's not the same thing. The sun is shining in your energy. So you are quite active this month, but behind the scenes, your subconscious is activating a whole new version of self-trust for you. Venus and Uranus are going to move into your 12th house. You're going to be asked to value your solitude, honor your intuition, and to look at and recognize the magic that's happening in and through you when absolutely no one is watching. Now, at the same time, your 10th house of career and legacy and reputation is absolutely buzzing with all of the retrogrades from Neptune, Saturn, and Chiron. And these are major invitations to redefine success. But this kind of success is really not based on visibility or status. It's all about spiritual alignment. Nobody may ever see the changes that you make, right? So if your current path or your current reputation even feels exhausting or out of sync with who you're becoming, I think that July gives you permission, like a cosmic permission slip, to kind of pause and make the pivot that you need to. Now, we can't miss, of course, that your second house is going to be lit up mid-month, bringing a lot of clarity to you around finances, okay? So let's jump in, Cancer, and let's take a look at what is going on. On the 4th, it's a bit of a busy day as we're coming into the beginning of the month. We first got Venus moving into the vibration of Gemini, so lighting up your 12th house space. So you may feel a little bit quieter than usual. You're more drawn to or pulling in space and time in your life that's more about rest and nostalgia and reflection. And really, this isn't a time with this transit for a lot of PDA, public romance, loud declarations. It's none of that kind of energy. Instead, it's a bit more of a sacred season for reconnecting with what does love and attraction feel like when no one's watching. Like, what is that to you in your own personal vibration? And then once you're clear on it, you can draw it to you. Now, the 12th house is also some things from the past. So you may be revisiting old dreams, past loves, inner questions that you've had yourself about worth or value, the value of your ideas, your voice, these kinds of things. But Venus here is such a softening agent, right? It softens your spiritual senses. And it's such a beautiful time to use that intuition to create and to explore in solitude. It's a wonderful energy for journaling and for prayer as well. So let this Venus transit for you be a season where before birthday time and before Venus pops forward into your sign to bring all that delicious beauty to the surface, it's a season where you retreat to replenish yourself. You know, it's beauty returning from the inside out kind of energy. Now, also on the 4th, we've got Neptune stepping into its retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries, a fellow cardinal energy. So as we're going to experience this particular retrograde, it's going to light up your 10th house space. So the 10th house, which is really about your career, your visibility, your public image, and your reputation, you know, what we know you as in public. This is a moment where you're going to start to get a little bit of clarity from a planet that is not always super clear. But the clarity comes literally on the backside of some fog. You know, you're being asked here, what dream have I been chasing that it turns out it no longer reflects my truth, right? It's not in alignment anymore. It's a delusion at this point. So if you have been pursuing a version of yourself, of success, of work that was more built on pressure, expectation, fantasy, or something that's even just been old, it's not a part of your story anymore, the Neptune retrograde may slowly peel away the illusion, right? And that isn't failure. This is alignment. That's what it's about. You know, you're remembering that real legacy for you is going to be built on reality and integrity. It's not necessarily being built on the applause or what people can also just give you those kudos for. So here's another thing that comes up for me looking at this Neptune in Aries is that this is a powerful time for you around spiritual leadership, right? Like, whatever spiritual leadership for you means at this particular point in your journey. Let your path be a lot more informed by not just that resume, not just the intellectual or physical things that you've done, but what the soul story is for you and that soul maturity at this time. You know, the truth of who you are at this point is going to guide and shape what you do next, okay? All right, on the 7th, big day, we've got Uranus moving into the vibration of Gemini, and this begins a years, you heard it with an S, long journey of awakening to your subconscious, all the things going on in the past, behind the scenes, these kinds of things. And so you can expect some revelations to come through sudden emotional releases, different synchronicities that bring things to your table, dreams. Your dream life will be massively active and trustworthy over this next 7 years, okay? And this isn't the kind of like revolution in your life, that Uranian energy that just kind of shows up on your calendar. It's like, well, Tuesday at 5, we'll be having some kind of, you know, awakening. It's the kind that like rewires you in unexpected ways from the inside out. Things you didn't realize were kind of stuck in your energetic zone get electrocuted to the surface, you know? So this transit, you can find it shaking loose all kinds of old spiritual beliefs. If you've had problems with spirituality, religion, 12-step groups, health, wellness, dealing with things from the past, all of these things can come rushing to the surface because it's also going to show you the way you maybe have an emotional or a mental coping mechanism that you've outgrown or you need to put down now, right? Karmic patterns can come out because that lives in the 12th house as well. But the thing to remember, I think, overall is that as this journey is going, your unconscious is being rewired. That can be super liberating. It will be. That's Uranus's work, but it can also be really disorienting. So show up. So pay attention to what shows up for you, Cancer, as you get still and as you get quiet. The breakthroughs are going to come in that time. They're going to come through your spiritual and intuitive practices. Okay, on the 10th, we've got a full moon that's happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, lighting up your 7th house space. So the full moon calls us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment, right? It's bringing clarity, closure, or breakthrough. And it's going to be in your conscious one-on-one relationships, whether that's a romantic relationship or a business relationship, you and a higher power, you and a person you're going to court with, an open enemy, like you know who's on the other side of this agreement. The dynamic, if it's been unbalanced in some way in your relationships, this moon is going to make it very visible, I think, because Capricorn's not playing around. It's very serious. It's like, hey, my foundation is uneven. I need to fix that, or if you've been craving a different level of commitment, like I either need to commit to this or I need to release it. This is that kind of moment, So, and I think that's around everything. A time of decision around contracts, around collaborations, around any kind of long-term commitment that you may be getting yourself into. So the question I would invite you to at this particular moon is, am I showing up fully in this relationship and committing to it? Or am I playing some kind of role where I'm just taking up space, but I'm not really in it? Right? So again, whether that's romantic, professional, personal, whatever it is, a full moon in Capricorn is calling up and out your integrity because you deserve relationships that reflect your truth. You deserve to be a person in relationship that is reflecting that relationship truth, not through guilt, not through fear, not through loss, not through obligation and history, right? All right, when we get to the 13th, we've got Saturn now taking that retrograde at 1 degree of Aries. Again, this is lighting up the energy of the 10th house, and it is again a Saturnian energy. So, we're going to have some serious reflection going on with what is presenting itself here. So Saturn here is asking you to seriously reflect on the foundation of the title that we call you in public. What's your public life? What's going on in your career? Are you building a career or a marriage or a reputation on some kind of solid ground? Or is this like, are you trying to push something forward, especially at work, on burnout? You're over functioning in burnout and trying to make it work. This is a pretty serious question, right? Because the retrograde can bring up a sacred pause. That's what I think of with Saturn, a sacred pause. Right? It's not a punishment. It's a really serious pause for us to do some digging into, looking into. So if you start finding that in your professional life or in the title or the reputation we call you in public, you've got all these delays coming up, that's a sacred pause. That's not a punishment. That's a sacred pause. Saturn is helping you mature your mission. It's helping you to mature. If you've been doing what you should, and I'm doing the quoteses, instead of what's real or what has integrity, this can be a really nice moment for you to recalibrate. Maybe you're even revisiting those past leadership roles, relationships with authority figures in your life. What have been long-term goals that have, you've trusted this, you've believed in this. It's like literally shaped the way you've built your life, and now you're needing to reshape it. The point is here, you're trying to build something in public now that can hold you, not something that is going to crush you. You're not going to die under the weight of it at this particular time. Now, the retrograde is going to be in place until November of this year, so we've got some time to work on this. On the 18th, we've got now Mercury going into retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo, and this is going to light up your 2nd house space. But this is for the general. I want you to make sure you grab your own individual birth chart. If you don't have one, click in the description and get one, please, so that you can see where 15 degrees of Mercury is actually at in your particular chart. But in the general, as Mercury goes retrograde here, your relationship with money, your thinking around money, resources, self-worth, how you allow money to flow towards you, it's all up for review. So you may find yourself rethinking about how you budget, right? How do you value your resources? How much of your voice is tied to your income? How do you even speak about money in your life, right? It's a great time to revisit that. For those of you who need to, if you needed to revisit pricing, rework your offers, it's a great time for that. But anything having to do with financial patterns, especially ones passed down like, in your family, through your family. Mercury in Leo wants to speak with all this pride, but it has to come from a place that is genuine and current belief in your values and your worth. Now, this can also be a time where, I don't think so much about it making you feel like you're big, but it can be a time where you're reconnecting with what makes you feel passionate, what makes money easy for you, right? How are you supporting yourself in a way that feels easy and pleasurable to you? As we get to the 22nd, the sun is going to enter into Leo, lighting up that second house space. Then on the 24th, we've got the new moon now lighting up that second house space as well. So you're planting your seeds of intention around abundance, right? You're being invited to a new version of wealth, not just in your bank account, in your nervous system. What does ease feel like to you? What would it look like if you just trusted your worth, that you were fully worthy right now, today? Set your seeds of intention on that, right? I want the moon to be able to offer you support as you're calling in new channels of value all the way around, maybe even unexpected ones, not just the earning, not just the saving, but how about creating from joy? Insights around self-esteem, even things maybe about your body. It's a really nice time to treat yourself as you are completely worthy. As we're going to close out this month, now we've got Venus moving into your first house. So as Venus comes into your sign, everything softens. Listen, it's glow up time, Cancer. Your aura becomes magnetic. Your energy feels comforting to those you're even just standing around. People are naturally drawn to you. They're attracted to you. It's very Venus, very attracting. So it's a perfect time to be social. Be social and let yourself just be loved on. You don't have to do anything to be loved. You don't have to do anything to deserve love. You just need to be. But, maybe you want to pamper yourself. Maybe you want to update your style. Maybe you want to enjoy your own body again. That'd be delicious. So whatever that looks like, you're allowed to be adored. Allow it to happen for you. Now, on the same day, we've also got Chiron stepping into retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries. I want to say that 27 degrees of Aries tells us that Chiron is pretty well advanced in a lot of the work that it's been doing. So even the things that are going to be coming up at this time, you have a little bit more skill in navigating them, I think. So Chiron retrograding here in your 10th house space can stir up these wounds around your career, around your visibility, around the things that you have achieved, around the title that we call you in public, your reputation. You're revisiting a memory of being shamed for wanting to have more, or you're being told you had to toughen up to succeed in some way. But now the healing is going to come from not pushing through, but from allowing softness within the structure. You can lead now during this transit with vulnerability, right? It's maybe even the first time in your life that you've ever really had the skills, the space and the world, and the willingness to lead with this kind of vulnerability, right? To be powerful without pretending something doesn't hurt. It's a beautiful time during this Chiron retrograde to examine these stories that you've carried about success, and rewrite them from a different place. Rewrite them from a place that is more whole, right? And it has a different perspective. Because again, Chiron's at 27 degrees. It's already been working on this identity for a while. You have a lot more healing here than maybe you're aware of. So if you can let yourself rise here from gentleness, you'll probably likely also be more willing to avoid overworking to compensate for a lot of that old pain. Lots going on this month. It's busy energetically. As always, happy birthday. I hope that the first half and the second half of this Cancerian energy have been absolutely brilliant for you. And as you are going to wrap up this particular month, please let me know in the comment section down below how it's all gone for you. Beautiful Leo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025. And Leo, this is your month. Happy birthday to all the Leos that are going to be having their birthday on this side of the July cusp. But let me tell you, even though this is birthday month and it's a big month, and I really think that this is your month, it is coming with a twist, right? It's almost this sentiment where it's like before you have this rise, there has to be this release. Now you're going to have Mercury retrograde, Sun, new moon, all in your sign. So you're experiencing that like an epic, personal reset for the year. And this isn't just a fresh start. I think that this is a lot of deep realignment. You've seen a lot over this last year, right? And so being in alignment with who you really are beneath the pressure, the persona, the performance is who's really going to be running to the table this month. Now, your first house is shining brightly, big month for you, but your ninth house of your beliefs, your purpose, your vision, your higher education, the way that you're going to expand out into the world, it's under quite a bit of pressure right now because Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, they're all going to retrograde in this ninth house area. So you are really reevaluating your worldview on a lot of things. What does faith mean to you? What are your goals? Maybe even this long road that you thought you were going to be on is starting to look a little bit different. Now, I want to say this in the beginning. It can feel disorienting, but instead of just the disorientation and staying with that, it's more sacred. It's like, hold on, let's come back to the truth and come back to your inner compass. That's really what a lot of it is about. Now, we cannot miss out on the fact that the big transit of the month is definitely Uranus moving into Gemini, which is going to light up your 11th house space. Thank goodness Venus is going to be over here as well, giving you some softness to redefine your place in the community, in where your tribe is, in these social spaces. What are you really here to contribute, and who are the people that are going to be in your tribe moving forward? So plenty to do, plenty to look at birthday time. Let's jump in, Leo, and see what the month has to offer. All right, right at the beginning of the month on July 4th, it's a busy day. First, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Gemini, lighting up that 11th house space for you. And the 11th house is going to highlight friendships, social things, social media, organizations that you're a part of, community, any kind of shared vision, a place where there's a shared vision. This is like your tribe in some way as well. So Venus being here is an attracting time. It's a beautiful time to reconnect with your people or to find new ones, because there really is a sweetness in the collaboration. And for you, Leo, there's a sweetness in the play as well. You've got to be playing for that Leo heart of yours to feel free. But it's different when things feel transactional. So this is a time to attract to you, those different kinds of groups. Maybe you're being invited into a new group, some kind of creative group, a cause, an event, something like that really speaks a little bit more to your heart. Either way, it's a wonderful magnetizing energy. Now, for those of you who are in this position, financially and romantically, opportunities can come when Venus is here in the 11th house, but they come through like a group that you're already attached to, right? Like someone in your network. So if you're open to it, keep your heart open, stay connected to that Venus, and let things flow towards you. You don't need to chase them. Now, when we get to the later in the day, we're going to see that Neptune is going to go retrograde here at 2 degrees of Aries. So first things first, please make sure you grab your personal chart. This is a general reading, so make sure you grab your personal chart so you can see exactly where this 2 degrees of Aries is at in your particular chart. But as Neptune turns retrograde here, it's going to be in your 9th house. So it's stirring these questions for you, Leo, about what's my path, my purpose, your sense of faith, right? Where will I expand to? How will I expand? What am I going to do for school? Am I going to live in this country? All of these questions can start to roam to the surface. And I mean it, you may feel a little bit lost at first. It's like this roadmap that seemed really, really clear for years and years and years now seems like it's a little faded. But the fading is actually the gift. Neptune retrograde isn't here to punish. It's here to dissolve illusions that you've had, right? So that your real direction can present itself forward. So whether you've been idealizing like a plan or like this, I've had this long-term goal or it's going to look like this, now is a time when life kind of hands a reality check, right? And it's going to be like, okay, well, now wait a minute. Does this actually still even resonate with me? Or is there some kind of Neptunian surrender where it's like, wow, this path that I thought was going to be trash is actually the better one? So I would encourage you to use this Neptune retrograde period, which is going to go all the way until December of this year, but really the full Neptune retrograde period is going to take us into springtime, March 31st of 2026. I would encourage you to use this period for reflection. Get spiritual. You've got to go to the spiritual study, right? Study yourself spiritually. Revisit an old dream or an old vision that you have, and you have to bring the discernment to the table. You have to see the truth, because seeing the truth will allow you to have a more deep trust in your knowing. And it's also going to be the place where clarity begins. If you're staying in the place of trying to escape it or pretend like it's something that it's not, that belief is not going to help you evolve over this time, and it can be a bit more painful. And in fact, what I've seen more often than not is when we try to deny a truth that a Neptune retrograde is showing us, one of the first things we want to do is to escape, and we want to eat, we want to drink, we want to dull our senses in some way. On the 7th, we've got Uranus moving into Gemini, lighting up that 11th house space. Now, as Uranus enters your 11th house, this is radical reinvention, and it's to your community, your long-range vision, your future. This changes your future. Right? So over the next few years, your social circle, your friends may change. The dream that you have for yourself can take a massive pivot. Your idea about, groupings and groupings of people may take a totally different shape. For many of you, you're going to find yourself in a lot more of the digital technical space. This will be massive for you. So it's a brilliant time to explore that and explore the tech-based communities, online work, causes that you feel like have a deeper value to you, being aligned with people that have a deeper value to you. For some of you, if you feel like you're being led down a road that's a little bit more unconventional, and unconventional only means necessarily unconventional to you. If you're going to go down that road, it's totally cool, but just make sure it's really authentic to you. Now, the thing I do love about this Uranian move here for you is it brings sudden breakthroughs around your purpose. What is it that you want to do, and what is the best path to get you there? Because when you can have some clarity or some radical rearrangement around that, you get electrified, then the right groupings of people can show up and they help you activate your voice and your direction for the future. It just needs to be your truth. All right, when we get to the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn. This is going to light up your 6th house space. Now, the full moon in the 6th house is first of all going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or we need to make an adjustment. We need to pivot to commit to a new direction. This is going to be in the 6th house of health. And when I say health, I don't just mean your physical health, but your mental health and wellness, how you're talking to yourself, how you're taking care of yourself. Maybe there's going to be a lot of medical appointments happening this month, habits and daily things that you do that allow you to live your life. Do you have a solid routine? And service, right? So something about your daily routine, your work structure, your wellness plan, it's coming to a breaking point and a breakthrough point as well at this particular full moon. So let me tell you what, if you have been burning that candle at both ends, this moon may be bringing a realization that it is time to reprioritize. You got to relook at this, right? And it's the space of being able to have work-life balance, whatever that looks like, because at this point, it's going to be like it's non-negotiable, right? Some of you may also be completing some projects. Like I said, many medical appointments could be coming up. You're changing jobs. You're receiving recognition from behind the scenes. I would really love that for you, especially with Jupiter now in that Cancerian energy. So it's a beautiful time, whatever is happening for you at this full moon, to remember that in a daily way, your body and your energy and your mind are sacred. They are your most sacred home. So honor them. Clear your system of the things that don't work here. If you need a new diet, you need a different mindset, or you need different working conditions, this is a great full moon to take that on. As we get to July 13th, we're going to see that Saturn's going to go retrograde now at that 1 degrees of Aries, again, lighting up this 9th house space. So again, the 9th house is pretty lush. It's pretty busy. And Saturn's going to be in its retrograde until November 27th of 2025. So, the outer planets go retrograde every year. It's not shocking, but because Saturn is here in Aries, this is new territory, and it is going to slide back into that Pisces energy. But Saturn retrograde here in your 9th house is going to ask you to reflect on the systems of beliefs that you've been building your life apart. Because you're being asked here, essentially under Saturn, is your current path the right one? Is it one you choose? Is it one you've inherited? Right? This can be a transit that slows you down. You get legal matters that you need to take care of, things having to do with academics, travel, publishing. But the point of the retrograde, especially early on here in Aries, is about helping you to reconnect to why you wanted those things in the first place. What were you trying to get out of them? What were they going to help you achieve? And now is the time to refine and redefine your long-term vision. Right? Revisit some kind of educational path, revisit a spiritual path. Maybe once you loved it and it meant everything, and now you're like, oh, I have more maturity and I'm looking at this with older, more wise eyes. And I see through maturity, not urgency, that this is a better way to go about this. You're literally outgrowing some ideas. All right, on the 18th, we've got Mercury going retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo. So lighting up this first house space for you is deeply personal. When there's a retrograde or a sign, a planet in your sign, it's deeply personal, right? But it's a personal invitation to reflect on how you express yourself, how your words, your voice, your image, they're all up for revision now, right? So this is not going to be the time here, second half of July, to just be rushing forward into a launch. You don't need to rush into like branding something, making a major personal decision. This is maybe not the time to do that. Instead, it's like, what are the parts of yourself that need space to reemerge right now, right? Maybe you're reconnecting with an old version of yourself and you're going, oh, wow, I, with different maturity, need to integrate some things because this looks a little bit different to me, right? Now, we're also going to see on the 22nd that the sun is going to come into Leo. So happy, happy, happy birthday. The sun is back in your sign. Your spirit has this reignition. And then on the 24th, we've got a new moon happening at 2 degrees of Leo, where you're planting your seeds of intention to ask for this next year in who I am currently. What lights me up? What version of myself feels both real and radiant? This is a beginning of a beautiful, beautiful cycle you've not seen yourself live yet. And the moon is all about your unique fire. So the next version of you is ready for a pop-off. All right, as we're going to close out the month on July 30th, we've got Venus entering into Cancer, lighting up your 12th house space. And we're also going to see Chiron retrograde. But Venus now shifting into your 12th house turns your heart inwards. It's a softening, right? You may feel a little bit more introspective, tender, nostalgic. Maybe you're even being called back to places that have been nostalgic for you, right? All of these things that you're attracting to take a more sacred tone, sacred rest, sacred creative solitude, healing around things that have to do with finance and romance. You're reflecting on past relationships and you have grace and forgiveness that you are working with. It's also just such a beautiful window to let love soften you without dissolving your boundaries, right? So what does that mean to you when you hear me say that? Where is this currently at play? You know, where do you have to forgive others and yourself and realize when people are trying to help or do the best for you, and you need to learn to forgive them and say yes, but also be able to hold your own space and boundaries. So that'll be interesting. Let me know what this peaks up for you, Leos. Now, we'll also see Chiron going retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, 9th house. Now, Chiron's at 27 degrees, so this is pretty advanced, right? It knows what it is doing. So as Chiron is retrograde here, it can reignite old wounds around your purpose, your beliefs, your spiritual confidence, your educational path. Maybe you're coming into confrontation with things that are legal or travel. You know, maybe you remember a moment where your truth was dismissed, or you were curious about something and you felt like you were shamed, or you felt like something was wrong just because you didn't understand it. Now, Chiron is more advanced. So you're not just looking at this through the lens of the wound. You're able to see it through more healed energy. You're reclaimed, right? You're reclaiming your right to seek and to learn and to evolve, but on your own terms. It's a really powerful time. But it is a powerful time too to realize that the best way to get through it is going to be with mentors. Mentors, wisdom. You need a little bit of wisdom to help you walk towards what you thought that you abandoned. It's like a time of becoming back to your whole self. I absolutely love it. Your path is sacred. You know, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest. And as long as you're not bypassing or comparing yourself to other people, your journey, I think that this can be an incredible month for you, Leo, to get some good work done. And there's plenty of wins along the way as well. So I will see you every week as we break down the weeklies to see where even the smaller wins are at for you every week. Have a gorgeous month. My brilliant Virgo friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where July, I think Virgo is a month of kind of a quiet power and more of this soul recalibration, right? Because the spotlight this month isn't on action, it's more on preparation. So there's a cluster of planets with activity going on in your 12th house. So we're moving through a behind the scenes kind of working this month, and that leads to a rebirth as everything comes into your first house at birthday time. So this is a time for spiritual cleaning, retreat, rest, as Mercury is going to retrograde, Mercury being your ruling planet, the sun and the new moon, they're all going to be inviting you to soften and reset. I absolutely love that. Now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, we have got your 8th house under transformation because Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron are all going to be highly activated as they retrograde through this 8th house area, prompting you to go into a deeper emotional healing, especially around intimacy, fear, loss, and your shared resources. So you're being asked to release all kinds of energetic debts, whether they be emotional, financial, karmic, all of that good stuff, so that you can move forward lighter and clearer. But I want to be clear too. This month is not all the shadow and the soul work and all of that, being super still, because your 10th house of career and visibility and reputation is going to be absolutely set ablaze with Venus and Uranus moving into Gemini. So boom, this suggests to us that there are some surprising, exciting, stay flexible kinds of shifts coming for you, Virgo, to your career area. You may be magnetizing a whole new kind of professional recognition or some kind of, reinvention that's really going to help you be that beautiful of service energy that you would like to be. So I think it's a month where if I could lay it out for you here in the beginning, it's reimagining, remembering, and releasing. So let's jump in and talk about the dates and break it down for you. Right at the beginning of the month on the 4th, it's a bit of a busy day. First of all, we have got Venus moving into that vibration of Gemini, getting the space nice and ready for Uranus to come over here. But Venus is going to be lighting up your 10th house space of career, reputation. And your reputation is also what we call you in public, right? Are you married? Are you not married? What is the title? What are the titles that go with your name in public? But the fact is you're moving in a way that's more visible. It's more magnetic. You're more graceful and attracting things to you, especially in public spaces. So, maybe this is a beautiful month where some of the work that you've been doing is getting noticed in new ways. And perhaps it's because you're finally showing up, Virgo, with more confidence, but a lightness. There's a lightness to you as well. Venus is going to bring a natural lightness and a natural ease to the table. So it's a great time to refresh your professional image, right? What do you want to attract to you? What kind of opportunities do you want to attract through you? Because dress the way that you want to be addressed. Put your colors out there, put your energy out there, and call to you through your networks, through someone in a position of influence, what you would like to attract to you here. But remember, as you're experiencing this transit all the way until we get close to the end of the month, until we get to the 30th, that Venus is attracting. So you are going to work best being diplomatic, being charming, in collaboration. Okay? All right. Also on the 4th, we've got Neptune stepping into its retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. Now, this is kicking off some of the busyness. Not that it's not already busy over here in this 8th house area of your chart, but now you're going to get the opportunity to do a review of some of the things that you have started. Because as Neptune turns retrograde in this 8th house space, where the unseen and the partnerships and the intimacy becomes unavoidable, right? So it is a powerful time for you to reflect on old wounds, Virgo, especially around vulnerability, stories and current connections in shared power and intimacy, things around sex, sexuality, emotional mergings, therapies, traumas. Astrology lives very much so in the 8th house, because the fact is here you're being shown something that needs to be likely released, whether it's an outdated attachment, those energetic debts I was talking about. Maybe it's even a fantasy around someone in your life or what their actual role is. The point here is that the retrograde might feel like there's a soft fog kind of rolling in here. But beneath it, I think the question of Neptune for you is, what is a truth that you've been avoiding? What illusions around control and intimacy need to be dissolved? But Neptune's going to help you dissolve it in a softer way. So it's a great time through this retrograde going all the way until December 10th. And really the full extent of it is going to go until March 31st of 2026. It's a great time to use for emotional clearing, to do those deep rests and resets and releasing, detox what you need to, but also to revisit spiritual tools that have maybe helped you in the past, helped you do that depth, helped you go into that shadow work. And remember, shadow work has to be done with someone. We can't do shadow work by ourselves because we can't see what's behind us. I'm the only thing that I can't see in a room, right? So to really see the shadow parts of us that we can't see, we've got to have kind of a light to reflect that off of. When we get to the 7th, Uranus is heading into Gemini. Okay, lighten up this 10th house space. And this is massive. This is a big transit for the year. This is a big transit for your life because this is going to bring a career revolution into your life over the next few years. Yes, years with an S, beautiful friend. You may dramatically change how and why you work on what you work on. I love this energy. Listen, I'm a Taurus who just got done having Uranus in Taurus, and I can tell you that when Uranus comes to these houses in our chart, it's the universe asking us through the vibration of electricity and liberty. It's calling you for more innovation, more autonomy, more originality, and for you, it's in your public life. So this is just a first preview. And it may come to a surprise, like as a surprise to you, Virgo. It might. Maybe there's a new opportunity. There's a shift in how visible you are. Or there's this really sudden urge where you're like, I want to do something out of the box. Okay. So whether it's pivoting, redefining, the energy here is that you are meant to break away from an old mold, from a reputation or a career energy that you had been living in. We've known you in it for years and years and years. Now, for many people, especially for you, Virgo, in this 10th house, it's going to be about tech. You're bringing something about your business or your reputation online in tech. Maybe you're teaching, maybe it's communicating, you're interacting with one of these social platforms in a very different way. But whatever it is, freedom is being demanded because that's what your future wants. On the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, fellow earth energy, lighting up your 5th house space. Now, the full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make some kind of an adjustment. We have to see what's still valuable and then pivot and commit to the direction of our pivot, right? In the 5th house, it's illuminating things around your joy, your pleasure, your play, your self-expression, and your creativity. For so many of you too, you're going to see that, if you've been crafting something, whether I say crafting, but let me just say, if you've been energetically pouring into something like a project or a romantic chapter in your life, something about it is reaching its peak or its conclusion, and you have to pivot with it, right? So you may have this moment of clarity around, does this actually bring me joy? Or something about like some portion of this does not bring me joy anymore. And you're getting this clarity. And if you've been forcing yourself to be productive but not fulfilled, I think that this moon is going to call you back to your heart because Capricorn gets pretty serious about what it's working on. Its ruling planet is right now in Aries and retrograde. It is the preservation of self going on here, right? So it's a really sacred and powerful moment for your creative cycle to have a reconnection with play, right? With play and pleasure and ease, saying goodbye to the stuff that is just not bringing joy into your life. Now, this will be a big time for you too if you do have children, because these are all experiences that they can be having as well, right? Like joy is not a luxury to children. It's a life force. They live it naturally. So whether something is happening for your children or you're noticing your children more and you're noticing the way that You minimize your joy or push out pleasure to just do the to-do list. This is going to be a great full moon, I think, to help you pivot. On the 13th, we've got Saturn now actually stepping into that retrograde in your 8th house. And Saturn retrograde in your 8th house brings a serious review of your relationship with sex, intimacy, vulnerability, finances, and all places that you share energy. And I like to say intimacy because it means you see into me. It's something you're very deeply connected to, okay? If there has been some kind of imbalance in emotional or financial partnership, this is a time to restructure, and it's quite serious. Now, this can be a challenging transit. We can't make any doubt about it because it asks you to be radically honest about power, about fear, and about trust. But it's also profoundly healing. You're being asked to build something more stable, a more stable internal foundation, one that doesn't rely on control, over-functioning, and secrecy. So it's a great time to revisit those financial agreements you had, your relationship with wealth and the wealth concepts, emotional boundaries, therapy work, astrological work that needs to be done, right? You're allowed to choose peace and to be very serious about that. And you can avoid the power struggles, avoid the emotional suppression, or, carrying other people's burdens just to prove that you're worthy. These kinds of things are going to be massive Saturnian concepts. And for some of you too, because the 8th house is so much about death, debt, taxes, and these kinds of things, inheritance, you may be going back and working on, estate planning, will planning, something like that in your life. As we get to the 18th, we're going to see Mercury take a retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo, lighting up again that 12th house space. And it's a very introspective time. Unless, of course, you have Mercury retrograde in your natal chart, then you're going to have more of a coming out time while the rest of us are running in. So make sure you check your natal chart. But it's a spiritual zone. That's the 12th house, right? It governs our dreams, our rest, our subconscious, all these things going on behind the scenes. So as we're experiencing the Mercury retrograde, if you're feeling like your words and your thoughts are actually a little bit more introverted than usual, that's exactly where the magic is at. That is exactly where the magic is at for you. Old memories, old dreams, hidden messages, things from your past, they're resurfacing for healing. And it's a perfect time to journal, pray, do that shadow work, go back to spiritual practices, go deeper into spiritual practices, right? You may also discover, because it is Mercury, that there have been some hidden patterns in how you've been communicating, including, beautiful Virgos, how you speak to yourself, or how you have these behaviors where you want to avoid vulnerability, right? Like you're getting ready to say something and the tears start coming up to your eyes and you're pushing them down, or you apologize for getting ready to cry, right? These are going to be some things that can be ready to be released. Mercury here wants wholeness. It's just trying to help you move towards your fullest expression, not perfection. As we get to the 22nd, the sun is going to enter into the vibration of Leo, lighting up more fully with motivation and heat and energy. Your 12th house space and all that heat and energy wants you to rest and to retreat. It's like your energetic winter before you actually get to birthday time and you're popping out of the cake and you're like, ta-da, so it's a beautiful sacred time for solitude, finishing your cycles, working on things behind the scenes. And then on the 24th, we've got a new moon that's going to be happening at just 2 degrees of Leo, also in that 12th house, giving you an opportunity to plant your seeds of intention about softness, healing, trust, surrender, acceptance, right? Trusting your intuition and your dreams. They're not random. That's guidance. So this moon gives you permission to root into rest. Now, as we get to the 30th, I think it's one of our busier days of the month, so I want you paying a little bit of attention. But it starts off sweet. We've got Venus moving into Cancer, lighting up your 11th house space, that friendships, networks, long-range dreams, goals, aspirations that you have for yourself. And with Venus here, you may be starting to crave connection, but it's like you want to be in the kind of connection for yourself that feels emotionally safe. It feels aligned with who you are now and your nervous system. It's aligned with your future, not just the past version of yourself. So it's a really beautiful time to, first of all, nurture the friendships and the connections that you do have, but also to call into yourself connections with more soul-aligned communities. And they're going to be the kind of communities that allow they have softness in the way that they're doing the collaboration. There's a sweetness about it, right? I think too that it is a good moment to romanticize and magnetize your future. Again, the 11th house is very much so a future-oriented energy. So what would it feel like, Virgo, to be surrounded by people who really get you and honor the soft, beautiful places in you as well, right? Where you choose intimacy over popularity. What would that be like for you? Now, on the same day, we've got Chiron going into retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, of course, also in that 8th house space. Now, I want to point out that Chiron being here at 27 degrees says that this is pretty well advanced, right? Chiron is not just looking through only the wound now. There's a fair amount of healing that's available here as well. So activating here in this 8th house, old wounds around intimacy, sex, emotional intimacy, sexual expression, money, shared power, these can be activated and called back up. You know, you may recall a moment where your vulnerability wasn't honored, or when you gave too much to try to keep love alive, you know, or you were deluding yourself thinking this is love when it was really just some kind of safety, but it wasn't actually love in there, right? So this is an invitation, I think, to begin to heal from those patterns, not by toughening up, though. We're not going to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps with this one. It's by softening into the truth. You deserve intimacy that doesn't cost you your peace, right? This is a beautiful time to understand that healing and living through the lens of the healed wound requires a gentleness. It's not hiding away from the pain or shaming yourself. So it's a beautiful time for therapy, energy work, inner child healing, anything around fear, abandonment, betrayal. In the 8th house, if you happen to be a married person, this is a great time to look at the intimacy of your relationship. If you're doing astrology, what's your deep connection to your astrological practice here, right? There's going to be a lot that comes up here, but I want you to just remember you're looking a lot more through the lens of healing, a lot of healing around this wound, as opposed to just the raw wound itself. All right, my absolutely beautiful Virgo friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Please let me know how this is panning out for you in the comment section down below. Absolutely beautiful Libra friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where Libra, July brings a journey of like truth, relationships. What's the long-term direction of this? And this is the spotlight this month because so much of it falls on your 7th house of partnerships. Neptune, Saturn, Chiron, they're all going to retrograde here. So if you've been feeling distance, delusionment, or kind of this reoccurring wound that's been coming up in some of your closest relationships, that's personal or professional, it's not a breakdown. I actually think it's a spiritual detox for you. You know, you're seeing clearly now what you need in order to feel emotionally safe, seen, and sovereign in your conscious chosen one-on-one relationships. I mean, you're the one choosing them, right? So lots of good energy happening over there this month. Meanwhile, your 9th house of beliefs, faith, travel, higher education, where you expand out, it's buzzing. And I love that word because we've got Uranus and Venus both there. And Uranus, the awakener, the electricity, the lightning bolt, is going to invite you to dream bigger, think different, and travel further. And that's even just mentally, right? In what you think and what you've believed. So it's like you're waking up to higher truths and possibilities that feel disruptive because they mess up the old narrative, but they're also really exciting because where can you go with this? And in the background, we've got a little bit going on as well because we are going to have still some energy floating around this 11th house space of your goals, your social groups, and things like that. But I think by the end of the month, even the little bit of energy that comes in there Venus is going to elevate you here. So let's jump in and talk about what the dates have going on for you this month. On July 4th, as we're kicking off the month, it's a little bit of a busy day. First of all, Venus is going to move into the vibration of Gemini, lighting up your ninth house space. So Venus here is moving into your adventurous and open-minded space, right? Inspiring a love of travel, publishing, marketing, broadcasting, expansion, learning, spiritual exploration, getting that trip to Greece. Yes, right? Like all of these things. And you may start pulling towards you new philosophies, people from different cultures. Maybe you're interested in teachings that are stirring your curiosity. They make your heart race, right? But Venus is calling these in. You're not hustling hard to go get them. It's a calling in. So this is a beautiful transit to, first of all, remember to do that your truth is evolving. So what you're calling in is a good thing. It's a different thing. It's beliefs that fit you today, whereas they wouldn't have, the old ones, they just don't fit anymore. I also think that Venus is still Venus. So this is a beautiful transit for romance, especially romance that starts with a shared idea, a shared belief, and the conversation is so rich and juicy around that. You might feel more drawn to someone who actually challenges your worldview or expands your mental horizon. You're kind of enjoying the stimulation of that. So let me know what the beginning of July looks like for you in terms of a little bit of romance in your life, even if it's you just romancing something in a friendship, right? You're like, wow, this conversation is delicious, okay? All right. Also on the 4th, though, we're going to have Neptune stepping into its retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries, lighting up that 7th house space. So this is a general reading. So please, Libra, make sure that you grab your own chart from me or from one of the free sites or wherever you like. Grab your chart so that you can see where this 2 degrees of Aries lies in your chart, because this is what's going to make your astrology really delicious. Now, Neptune's going to be in retrograde until December 10th, but it won't fully leave the post-retrograde shadow time until March 31st of 2026. But as Neptune is retrograding here in your 7th house of conscious, chosen one-on-one relationships, it's calling you to look at where you have projections, illusions, avoidance, maybe playing a role in your partnerships, and as Neptune retrogrades here, you might actually be feeling like the fog is lifting a little bit, and it's revealing a truth that maybe you weren't even honestly ready to see before. It's not necessarily that you couldn't see it before, but you weren't ready to see it with those sacred eyes and heart before. If you've been idealizing someone or even been idealized by someone else, this retrograde will gently ask, is this connection real, or is it based on hope and potential? Right? So Neptune's retrograde here is a soft but sacred time for clarity, for forgiveness, for surrender in your conscious chosen relationships. And I think the way to really lean into Neptunian energy is to trust that what is dissolving is clearing space for something more spiritual and more aligned, right? The truth is the most loving thing right now. So one of the other things I just want to share with you here, especially because this is in a relationship zone for you, if you can avoid holding on to relationships that thrive in confusion or fantasy, that's going to be good for you. Avoid disappearing yourself from relationships, all your conscious chosen relationships. Don't ghost people. That's not the best way to work with this Neptune retrograde, okay? On the 7th, big day, we've got Uranus entering into the vibration of Gemini. Wow, a lot of electricity is coming over here, and your 9th house is getting its attention. It's shaking up this 9th house, right? So launching a new era of your mind, of your beliefs. And over the next coming years with an S, you're going to be called to shed a whole bunch of outdated beliefs. They don't work anymore. You're embracing radical ideas that really stretch your worldview. And sometimes the most radical worldview you will realize is something that is, in quotes, traditional. So I'm really interested to see what this looks like for you. But for some of you as well, especially upon the initial entry of Uranus into Gemini, it could come with a surprise, like a sudden shift in your spiritual life. Maybe you have thought forever, right? You've had this long-term dream, and this is my horizon, and this is where I'm going. This is the direction, and there's a pivot in it. Or there's this bolt of electric clarity in what you really believe in. Because let me tell you what, as a Taurus who has recently survived Uranus coming through Taurus, it shakes you from a place that you didn't even know you had stuff to be shaken. It really does. And your next great teacher from this may actually not be a person. We tend to get mentorship when it comes to the ninth house, but it may not be a person. It could be an experience that just cracks your soul open and you have a knowing. But I will say that the liberation, the true liberation that Uranus can bring while it is shaking, not stirring your life in your ninth house, the true liberation comes when you're brave enough to really have the courage to reimagine everything that you thought, right? Oh, it's an adventure. Let me tell you what, my life is better for it. So I can't wait to hear your experience. When we get to the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, fellow cardinal energy like yourself. And this is going to light up your fourth house space: home, family, real estate, property, your roots. Now, this is a full moon, so it's going to ask you to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment, right? All the lights are on. We're seeing what everything is, and you've got to commit to a new direction and kind of pivot towards it. So there could be some closure or like a culmination to something in your home or in your emotional foundation. For some of you, it's going to be very straightforward. It's going to be very earthy. You are moving, you are renovating, you are finishing up a renovation project, something like that. For others of you, it may look like you're releasing family baggage, or you're simply coming back to a very earthy, grounded truth about what it is that gives you a sense of safety. Right? Your inner world with this full moon is calling for attention. And I think that the moon helps you see, what are the structures that I have that support my emotional well-being? And of course, which ones do not? And there is so much power in honoring where you come from. And I mean that from where you root in to your energy source in the beginning of the day, down to, yes, your ancestry, right? You get power from rooting, but it doesn't have to define absolutely everything about you. Just because your ancestors did it doesn't mean that you have to keep doing it if that's not the direction you would like to go. And that's a very emotional place to look at where your healing and your evolution is happening. All right, on the 13th, we've got Saturn now stepping into that retrograde at 1 degree of Aries, lighting up your 7th house. So as you can see, the 7th house has got plenty to offer in terms of your attention. And Saturn is going to be retrograde until November 27th of this year, okay? So as Saturn goes retrograde in your 7th house, this is a karmic checkpoint. Saturn brings a fair amount of seriousness to your one-on-one relationships. So you may be reevaluating all sorts of commitments that you have made, right? You're feeling the Saturn of them. You're feeling the weight of a commitment. And the question is going to be, can I stay in this? You might be reevaluating boundaries or those dynamics that are making the commitment feel heavy or outdated. This time is about rebuilding a relationship on a more authentic foundation, one where maybe the responsibility is shared, but certainly very Aries principle, respect is mutual. Aries wants respect, okay? Now, if you happen to be a single person, this may bring up deep reflections for you on what kind of partnership you are truly ready for. Not the one that you want, but what you're truly ready for. And if you are partnered up, this can be a great time to go back in and strengthen or restructure what needs to be restructured to have the strength in here, right? One of the things that can come up, because Saturn can bring doubt and it's heavy. Some of the things we're dealing with are heavy. And if you can avoid withdrawing, don't withdraw, right? If that's like no ghosting, and avoiding blame. Saturn teaches us through ownership. So, what needs to mature in your relationship for it to be the right kind of relationship? All right, when we get to the 18th, Mercury is going to go retrograde at that 15 degrees of Leo in your 11th house space. So now friends, goals, organizations, social media, aspirations you've had for yourself, you're being invited to re-envision this. And some of that may include re-envisioning your social circles, right? Because it's like, if my long-term dream and aspiration is to go in this direction, but my social circle is aligned in a different direction, you may be getting to reevaluate that. And that said, you might reconnect with old friends, or just reflect on whether or not your current communities still resonate with your current values. Now, it's Mercury retrograde, so there can be delays in any kind of collaborative effort you are going to put on, and certainly miscommunications within a group. So if you're working on a group project, make some space. Just make a little bit of space with this Mercury retrograde. Give everybody grace. Remember, no one's exempt from a Mercury retrograde. So we are going to be in this until August 11th on the short end, and until August 25th on the long end in that post-retrograde shadow time. And I'll be talking to you about that every week as well. On the 22nd, we see now the sun enter into the vibration of Leo, bringing light, heat, life, and vitality to this 11th house. This is your season for social awakening. So there's a lot of motivation within the social places that you're hanging out to shine your light. But we want it to be the right kind of light. Now, we're also going to have a new moon on July 24th at 2 degrees of Leo. And this is your opportunity to plant your seeds of intention around friendship, collaboration, being aligned in spaces that are meaningful goals to you. So what kind of community do you want to have? What kind of community do you want to build? What is the legacy that you want to leave? This new moon in Leo gives you an opportunity to do that, to be ready to start this new creative direction or grow this creative direction, but with the spaces and the people that are going to really help you ignite that joy. As we're going to close out the month, we've got a busy day on the 30th. First of all, we've got Venus moving into Cancer, lighting up your 10th house space. So as Venus glides, and I like to think that Venus does a nice glide into your 10th house of career, reputation, visibility, it brings a beauty, a magnetism, a harmony, a recognition in your professional or public world. If you're feeling a little bit more emotionally invested in your work, or you're feeling called to lead with empathy, right? The empathy is coming in more. It's shedding a bit of the performance. Venus is just calling that in, just letting you soften. It's beautiful because this transit softens your public image, right? And that helps draw support from authority figures, people in position of influence, collaborators, clients who want to work with your heart at this level. I think that this is a phenomenal transit for any kind of artistic project that you have as well. Or if you work in the business of relationships, like our relationship therapists, astrologers, things like that, the relationship within your own home, this is a really delicious softness that a lot of strength can come out of. Now, on the same day, we've got Chiron going retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, lighting up that 7th house space. Now, Chiron being at this 27 degrees is a bit more advanced. Chiron's been working here for a while, so there's been a lot of learning and a lot of healing that is under our belt. So I want to say that first of all. So you're not just working from the wound, it's more working through some of the healing around that wound and actually being able to use some of it as a teaching guide now. So in your 7th house, Chiron here can be peeling back like another layer of the relational healing, old wounds around abandonment, rejection, codependency. These things can rise, but they rise to be transformed. That doesn't sometimes make them less overwhelming depending on where you're at in your growth in your life journey. It's not always a healing journey, it's a growth in a life journey. You know what I mean? You may realize that you've been attracting a certain kind of relationship or relationship pattern, not because you're broken. Not because you're broken, but because your soul wants wholeness and it's got to be learning through these types of relationships. So it's a really sacred time, I think, to first of all, remember your worth, right? Be gentle with yourself. Tend to your heart. Tend to your boundaries, especially in regards to your one-on-one relationships and love. Avoid over-intellectualizing your healing, okay? Like, oh my God, that can be such an obsession, can't it, right? But sometimes what's also happening is that the body remembers before the mind and the heart do. So this is a transit, I would say, at the end of the month. Be gentle with yourself, okay? It's a good month, Libra. There's a lot going on. There are some delicious Venusian energies, which is your ruling planet to take advantage of. So I hope you get your fingers all pruny and gushy in that goodness this month. Let me know how it goes in the comment section down below. Beautiful Scorpio friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where Scorpio this month is about awakening your soul's craving for mastery, for purpose, for some real, true emotional intimacy. And I don't think that's just emotional intimacy with partnerships. Of course, that's in there, but I think with life as well. But let's talk first about this sixth house energy, because that's going to be very busy this month as well. So the realm of health and work and service. First of all, it is not only busy, but this month it comes under a really powerful review as Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron are all going to retrograde here. You know, so if you've been pouring your energy, Scorpio, into routines or responsibilities that are really draining you instead of nourishing you, this is a cosmic reset for you. And this is your opportunity to listen, because your body may be speaking out loud in very obvious ways what your soul has been whispering for a while. So you have an opportunity to listen a bit more closely and make some decisions this month. Meanwhile, that eighth house is going to be lit up and it is going to get electric, you know, because we have Venus and Uranus moving into Gemini, inviting a really fresh start here, but it does it in an electric way where things have been stuck or stagnant. Now you're going to be pushed into deeper emotional, sexual, financial territory. You're getting in there. And I think that coming at it from a pretty surprising approach to your intimacy and to your shared resources is really where Uranus can be so helpful, because you're being asked to evolve how you trust, how you manage power, how you merge with other people. So we'll get into that. And by mid-month, we're going to see that your 10th house, which is just like the peak of your chart, you know, it's the most public place that we see. It's going to start to glow with this beautiful fire. We'll have Mercury retrograde there. The sun will come in. And then we've also got a Leo new moon. So you've got plenty to work with this month, Scorpio. Let's jump in and break these dates down. All right, at the beginning of the month on the 4th, it's a busy day. We've got Venus moving into the vibration of Gemini, lighting up your 8th house space, paving this beautiful way for Uranus to come in later as well. Now, as Venus enters into this very seductive and soulful 8th house, it's a drawing and attracting energy. Venus is not hustling hard for anything. It's a drawing and attracting your attention to intimacy. You see into me. It's very deep. Shared resources, banking, death, debt, taxes, detox, your sexual energy, your sexual reproductive organs, your bladder, your excretory system. These all come up and are being drawn. Your attention's being drawn to them. There's a lot of transformation going on in this space. So this Venus being here is kind of a powerful time to deepen this area. It supports those healing conversations. It's going to help you to explore, my goodness, that Mercury retrograde is coming in, to explore more of your erotic side. It's a great energy for putting a little salve and softening on, maybe even renewing trust that you have, but only if you're willing to show those beautiful emotional watery cards that you have, right? It's moving away from the manipulation, the power games, or that emotional detachment that makes us, it's masquerading around here like it's freedom, but it's really not. This is going to be a month that really requires real vulnerability to make that connection. And that's even if you pointed out being focused on your finances, and it's going to be finances or resources that also involve others, those investments, inheritance, taxes, debts, right? Conversations about shared money or shared energy. The vulnerability required here to gain clarity is going to take a fair amount of courage. So you'll definitely be working on that. Now, on the same day, we've got Neptune going retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries, lighting up the 6th house space. As Neptune turns retrograde here in your house of healing, health, daily routines, work, your coworkers, okay? And it's not work like the profession that you're in, it's the daily tasks that you take on. Think about your schedule. Neptune here is dissolving illusions around your day-to-day life. So if you've been running on fumes or you've been stuck in some kind of cycle of self-sacrifice that's not really productive and nurturing, this retrograde is a gentle invitation towards some spiritual realignment. You may realize that your body needs something different now than it's ever needed before, or that your work needs to align more deeply with what's a soul truth for you at this time. So fatigue, fogginess, disillusionment, these are all messengers right now because they're pointing to imbalance. They're showing you where something has to soften. So you can use this time to simply rest. Rest and reclaim your energy. What is your relationship with rest, right? Because your spirit's not meant to be on service mode all the time. You can't serve from depletion. The clarity is going to come from the soft attention and the honest spiritual inquiry here if you're going to be able to make these changes. On the 7th, big energy, Uranus enters into Gemini, lighting up the 8th house space. And this begins a long cycle, years worth of cycle of liberating your experiences around intimacy, sex, resources, shared power. For some of you, astrology. Some of you will become professional astrologers under this energy. It happens all the time when Uranus activates something. So this can bring sudden shifts in how you handle money, especially as it's tied to other people, or you're like taking on someone in some way, shape, or form. Or how about how you trust and you merge emotionally with people? Uranus is a liberation energy, and liberation doesn't always feel safe at first, but it does lead to the truth. So if your energetic system, if your nervous system is not used to peace or it's not used to a deeper merging, this can feel like you are jolted out of a familiar emotional pattern. Especially if they are ones that have been rooted in survival or fear and control. And it's shifting you, but it's uncomfortable at first. But I want to assure you, this is just but a beginning of a really radical rebirth in your emotional world. So you are just not who you were. You're who you are today. And this energy is going to get you really, really current, especially if you don't cling to those old trauma identities. All right, on the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn. So make sure you have your own chart, Scorpio. This is a general reading. I want you to really make sure what you can see against your own chart. This lights up your 3rd house space of communications, siblings, learning, networking, buying and selling of things. So something that you've been working on, whether it's been in that realm of writing, speaking, teaching, could reach completion now. Or it could also reach culmination and become very visible at this time, because the full moon is going to ask us to end something, acknowledge something, or adjust something. So if you've had a project or a presentation or something like that you've needed to put out or work on, or you're doing that book, you're redoing the website, July is a great time at this particular full moon to go ahead and bring those things to an end. I'm telling you, if you have an important conversation or some kind of experience that really shifts in how you connect to other people around this full moon, the question I will have for you is, what have you learned? What have you learned, and how are you using and sharing your voice right now? One other thing that this can be great for, especially as we're heading into the Mercury retrograde, is to clear out mental clutter. If you're a detox sign, right? So if you have ideas or thought patterns that are not aligned anymore, they're just a distraction, this is a great time to get ready to clear those out. On the 13th, we're going to see Saturn go retrograde at 1 degree of Aries, again in the sixth house space. So Saturn in the sixth house, it prompts a bit of a reality check. And it's a reality check around your sixth house, your physical health, your mental health and wellness. How do you talk to yourself? Your daily routines, your schedule, your work, your life, your boundaries between work and life. So if you've been overcommitting, or under nurturing yourself, or if you've been overcommitting and under delivering, this is also a time where you can take a lot of responsibility and really recalibrate here. Because you're being asked to build a system of care here. You're not being asked to build another cage to be in control of. This is about a system of care. It's a system where there's wisdom in it. There's wisdom in doing the simple things really, really well. And that is sacred. Like sacred repetition is kind of the word I think I want to use here. Now, for some of you, this can be a time where you are revisiting old health patterns that came in, especially when Saturn entered into Aries, or old work habits or projects, and now they need to evolve. You need to go forward with them and make these adjustments because something about it is not sustainable. But remember, if you can handle being stuck at any time, you can also handle discipline. And that is a Saturnian principle that we are all rewarded for, because discipline is devotion. It's not punishment. On the 18th, we've got that Mercury stepping into retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo, lighting up your 10th house. Now, Mercury retrograde in the 10th house, where we see you, it's your career, your soul level calling, your public reputation. We see you very, very visibly here. It's going to ask you to review how you are seen in the world. What is your career path? What is your title that we call you in public? And are you really, truly committed and aligned to that? Leo is a fixed energy. So whatever you're doing here for a while. Are you showing up in ways in whatever one of these commitments are that is authentic? Or are you just showing up to look impressive, right? And I think it's a great thing to remember here that when we're talking about the 10th house, this can be your career. It can be your role, absolutely, at work. I'm a CEO of fill in the blank. But it is as much, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother, are you showing up truly in ways that are authentic in those roles as well? Are you committed to those roles? There can be delays. It's Mercury retrograde, delays, renegotiations. Sometimes you have an old opportunity return to you and now it's a better fit. What I can say is that Mercury is retrograde, and unless you have Mercury retrograde in your chart, I wouldn't rush any decisions now. Give yourself some time to reflect, go over the fine print and all of the details. Because remember, you are rewriting. Saturn is retrograde. You're also rewriting the story of what success even means to you in a really deep daily way. On the 22nd, we see the sun enter into Leo. And then the 24th, we have got a new moon happening in Leo, both lighting up the 10th house space. So you have this opportunity over those last few weeks of July to really set your intentions, plant your seeds of intention around your legacy, your visibility, the role that you're committing and stepping into. What do you want to be known for, Scorpio, and why? If you are launching something, make sure it comes from the soul, not the ego. You're planting seeds that could grow into something that is such a powerful chapter in your public life. I want you to choose the most magnetic path forward, because that's the one that's deep and true. You don't need to rush to prove anything to any of us, okay? All right, as we're going to close out the month on the 30th, again, a busy, energetic day, but it starts out a little bit sweet. Venus is going to move into Cancer, lighting up your 9th house space, the space of wisdom, your beliefs, your vision, public marketing, broadcasting, putting all things out there, higher education. So again, you may feel drawn, or you're drawing to you, spiritual retreats, learning something that's a bit of a different philosophy or a different set of ideals that expands your mind. Maybe you're planning a romantic weekend, or you're making adjustments to your educational journey, and it's like you're drawing it. You feel drawn to it, right? But this is a gentle reminder that there is such beauty. It's very Venus. There's beauty in the unknown. and that what you love and how you love can be a guide to such bigger things, more expanded things, bigger dreams. It's also a great time, like I said, for that publishing, marketing, broadcasting, teaching, connecting with people from different cultures, because Venus here makes you very, very magnetic. You know, the spirit is free and ready to fly under this Venusian energy and have things magnetize towards you. As we're also here on the 30th and we're going to close out the month, we've got Chiron retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries. And I want to point out at 27 degrees of Aries, this is pretty advanced. Chiron's been working here for a while. So though Chiron is our wounded healer, I think at this point we also get to see where you're at on your healing journey. Chiron may be showing up as the previously wounded, now healed, but ready to teach and share teacher as well. Now, shining in your 6th house, it's going to shine those lights on old wounds around perfectionism, body image, health, mental health and well-being, feeling useful enough, feeling purposeful enough. You know, if your worth has always been tied to what you do for others, or if it's just tied to what your daily routine looks like to other people, it's not what does your daily routine look like to you, it's around other people. This is a season for unlearning that, because your healing lies in not just doing, but it's in the being as well. In your being, you shine brightest with your biggest purpose, because in your being is what's going to happen to other people when you activate yourself. It's also a great time to unlearn any weird daily rituals that have not served as medicine, but they've served as punishment. Discipline doesn't mean punishment, right? It does not mean punishment. This retrograde, I do also think, depending on where you're at on your journey, can stir up your emotions about illness, about betrayal of the body, feeling like your body betrayed you, about burnout, your relationship to your daily routine, right? Like, what's your relationship to time management, and productivity? So I just want you to be gentle with yourself and remember that your softness deserves space in your schedule. We cannot pour from empty cups. We just can't do it. Okay, so avoid abandoning your body in the name of efficiency. Instead, maybe you're even talking to people about how to not do this to themselves at this point of your journey as well. Scorpio, you have so much to offer. You are so deep. You are so beautiful. And you're just a lovely energy. And I'm sorry people give you the bad rap. I love you a ton. I hope you have a beautiful month. You have a lot to offer and you have a lot to gain as well. So let me know in the comment section down below how it's going for you. Absolutely beautiful Sagittarius friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where Sagittarius, July is reorienting your heart and your horizon. And I know that these are words that you love. You guys are such a precious energy. So there's a huge spotlight this month on your 5th house and your 9th house. And Sagittarius, you are being asked to remember what lights you up, not what's expected of you, but what lights you up. Creativity, belief, the courage to follow your joy and know that the joy that you offer out is actually medicine. That's really important this month. Now, in the 5th house, just for a little overview, the 5th house is going to have the retrogrades, Neptune, Saturn, Chiron. They're going to retrograde through here. And this is about bringing a deep insight and healing to your relationship with your own joy, with this self-expression, things from your childhood, certainly childhood wounds or things that you've been disillusioned around from childhood could find themselves popping up. If something once felt really, really playful to you and now it feels really heavy, this is going to be a great moment this month to lovingly unravel that, rebuild it, but rebuild it on your own terms. Now, at the same time, that energy of your 9th house, your vision, your travel, your expansion, push, dream bigger, teach, all of these things, it's going to start to look real different than I think that you had even imagined it was going to be possible to look like. And that's really because Leo season is coming in, right? We're going to have Mercury retrograding through Leo. The sun is going to be there. We're going to have a new moon happening over there in the 9th house. So you've got a massive amount of energy. Now, we cannot forget the big news for the month, and that is that Uranus is entering into Gemini. So this is going to give an absolute shakeup to your seventh house of conscious, chosen one-on-one relationships, big shifts in relationships, especially where freedom is concerned, right? Like, who are your true partners? Who are your true partners now? Who's walking beside you and with you in this next chapter of your life? So lots going on this month, Sagittarius. Let's jump in and take a look at what these dates have to offer you. So right here on the 4th, we've got Venus entering into Gemini, lighting up your 7th house space. So this is going to have those partnerships sweeten up as Venus glides in here. This is a place where we can bring a burst of kind of charm and connection and clarity and a salve if we've needed some healing or some rebalancing or harmony brought here. But this is to your closest one-on-one chosen conscious relationships. You know who you're in relationship here. You're choosing a dynamic here. And this is both personal, professional, and I include spiritual as well. Now, new connections that happen this month could absolutely feel magnetic, like you're being drawn in some way, right? Your existing relationships, if they could benefit from a real heart-to-heart conversation, Gemini, this is a great time to do it because you're blessed in the energy of collaboration. You know, the words coming out of your mouth, they're much easier to receive because remember, Venus in Gemini also wants to keep it playful and curious and maybe not get so heavy, even if we need to have a heavy conversation or we need to make a difficult decision. You know, let love speak a lot of different languages as Venus is traveling through Gemini. Try not to overanalyze like the affection and the ease in your life. Also on the 4th, we've got Neptune moving into retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. This will light up that 5th house space I was talking about. Now, Neptune's retrograde through your 5th house begins this season that you've actually been in the beginning of the season, and now you're going to review what the beginning of that season brought to you, which is emotional and spiritual clearing around love, pleasure, play, joy, things having to do around children, including your own inner child. You know, so it's like it's going to be a good time in the retrograde to look at, have you been ignoring what truly creatively or romantically lights you up? Are you sacrificing joy in the name of control? This is a moment to peel back the illusions, come home to your truth, come to some reality that's happening around you, you know, and maybe there are dreams or a vision of something that you wanted, Sagittarius, and it's felt like it's been really like deferred or pushed down the road. This is going to be where you have a time to revisit it and see if it's really worth investing in. And your creativity, your joy, your pleasure, your play, what's sacred to you, it might be a little bit messy under this energy. So I'm going to just tell you, like, real love, real art, real presence, all of these things cultivate real joy. And that also soothes the nervous system. And it allows you to avoid numbing out over idealizing other people or being entirely disappointed. And I think that's a really important transit for us to dig into. When we get to the 7th, we're going to see that Uranus enters into Gemini, now also in the 7th house space. And this is going to bring long-term changes in how you relate. Man, I am a Taurus. I just got done with Uranus going through Taurus. And let me tell you what, I am changed. So I know that this area of your life, your relationships are going to become significantly different. Your partnerships may even feel electric, unstable, but suddenly liberating all at the same time, you know, because this can stir up those big shifts, but it's like, I want freedom. I want freedom from codependence. I want a surprising new love or romance or commitment to come into my life. I'm having a breakthrough in how I relate or I collaborate with other people, you know, and for some of you, depending on where you're at in your lesson base, you may be feeling a lot more called towards non-traditional relationship paths. Or you simply outgrow some kind of old dynamic in a relationship that's just not supporting the truth anymore. It's not authentic. And you telling the truth is the little bit of rebellion. So be honest with yourself and be honest with others about what your needs are today, because you've evolved. So remember, this is going to be here for 7 years. So we've got some time to work on getting to the freedom of that. Now, on the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, lighting up your second house. As the full moon is here, it asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. And here it's shining a light on money, self-worth, your value system. Maybe you're going to complete a financial project, or you're going to make a really big decision around something that brings you security. You could be confronting a limiting belief that you've had about your own ability to earn, your own earning power, right? I just will have a question for you at this lunation for you to consider. How do you treat and price yourself? I think that this is under review, and this is a moment to get clear. What do you believe that you deserve? Because your worth is not up for debate. You just get to stand in it. And security begins right there. I love that for you. I cannot wait to see what you find out at that lunation. Please share that with me in the comment section down below. All right, on the 13th, we've got Saturn going retrograde just at 1 degree of Aries. Again, in this fifth house, Saturn joining Neptune over there in this retrograde. But Saturn here is going to tighten the call for responsibility in love, responsibility and creativity, responsibility around your joy. For some of you, responsibility around children. You may need to revisit some boundaries in parenting, dating, romance, passion projects that you have. The point is, Saturn in this retrograde is teaching that structure actually supports spontaneity. It gives it a place for it to really live, right? If you've neglected your creative gifts or you've delayed that dream, now is a second chance, but you're going to create a supportive structure with a lot of clarity so that that dang thing can live. You're arriving at a recommitment to maturity, not to pressure, at being on the right path, and not having to feel shameful or guilty or like you're too late to actually live out this dream and this joy. On the 18th, we've got Mercury going retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo, lighting up that 9th house space. This is going to ask you to slow down your big plans and reevaluate something in your educational path, your teachings, your beliefs, a future direction that you've been thinking you want to expand into. You could have a trip that absolutely has to get rescheduled. An old philosophy that doesn't suit you anymore might go away, or an old philosophy that didn't fit you but does now can be reborn. So you're really being asked during this particular Mercury retrograde to like recheck your compass before you just go taking those beautiful Sagittarian legs out there onto the next adventure, stretching towards your horizon. What truth is still true for you? That will be the question, I think, of this Mercury retrograde. Now, just behind that, on the 22nd, we'll see that the sun enters into Leo, and on the 24th, we'll have a new moon come into Leo. So both of these bring a lot of light, heat, and vitality and motivation to this area of your chart. But at the new moon in particular, you're going to plant your seeds of intention to say, what future am I ready to believe in again? What future am I ready to believe in for the first time? What do you want to learn? What do you want to explore or create that aligns with your truest self at this moment, right? You're going to plant your seeds of intention around publishing, marketing, broadcasting, higher education, travel, those spiritual truths. This new moon is your fresh start in this particular area. On the 30th, it's a busy day. But I think we start out pretty sweet because we see Venus rolling into the energy of Cancer, now lighting up your 8th house space. Venus comes here into the space of intimacy and assets. We also do shared resources here and healing. So this is a transit that can bring more of an emotional closeness. It's drawing it to you. Maybe there's more financial blessings that are coming to you through other people. Or I think even deeper than this, Sagittarius, something that you've been craving at like a soul level, like you really wanted a home, or you really wanted the place where you're at to feel like home. It's like it's coming back around. There's a bit of smoothing that's coming to it. It's a beautiful time to lean into that, to see where the true intimacy grows, right? And sometimes intimacy grows through working on housing projects. And that's what you're doing. And you're getting to really merge in there emotionally, financially, sometimes erotically, and see where that mutual trust dynamic exists. It's really very deep, okay? On the 30th, as we're going to also close out the month, we've got Chiron taking a retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries. Now, Chiron at this 27 degrees of Aries is quite advanced. So at 27 degrees, it's seen some things. It's worked on this Aries energy, the identity around your joy, your visibility, your self-expression. It's worked on this for a while. So I do think that while Chiron represents our wounded healer, we have to remember that it also represents the teacher as well. So you're seeing not just through the wound now, but through some version of the wound that's been healed up a little bit, you know? So if we get to the end of the month and it brings up wounds from childhood, things around creativity, or, you know, just the way you've been taught to perform rather than to be, or if you've struggled to feel like you're good enough, or you've been fearing being too much in some way, this is a pretty sacred time to reclaim your light, because the world's better, Sagittarius, when you're shining your fire. You're worthy of all of that joy, you know, right now as you are. And this can also be a time where maybe you're talking someone else through this. Someone else blows into your life or your world, and you're talking to them about avoiding self-sabotage or, you know, false modesty, these kinds of things where you're realizing that you came to the other side and now you have a bit more access from a healed wound to be able to actually be a teacher as well. I can't wait to see what the month holds for you. Please let me know in the comment section down below how you're doing. And I look forward to seeing you every week to walk through the finer details of the month as well. My beautiful Capricorn friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where Capricorn, July brings a deeply personal reset, I think, and it's one that challenges your roots, your rhythm, and the way that you hold your own power. Now, we're going to have a really potent full moon that's going to happen in your sign, and that is a big culmination for you this month, right? Like you're stepping into visibility in maybe a different way. You're not doing it though without doing some shedding first. Now, obviously, the big news this month is that we have got Uranus moving into the vibration of Gemini, and this is going to light up, shake up for years to come your sixth house area. It's going to bring some innovation. Venus will also be helping over here to kind of help you reimagine the sweetness of daily life. But I do not want to miss out on giving you a preview that much of the month's energy is actually going to call you inward to tend to your fourth house of home, family, real estate, property, your emotional foundations, because Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron are all going to turn retrograde here, calling you and asking you to re-examine the structures that once felt really secure, but now they feel heavy or outdated or too tightly held onto. So it's going to be an invitation this month to soften, like just enough to feel what's real and what needs to be rebuilt. So Capricorn, let's jump in and take a look at what's going on during these dates. Now, on the 4th, we've got Venus entering into the vibration of Gemini, lighting up your sixth house space. Venus is not our hustle hard planet. Venus is coming in, drawing a sweetness and a grace to your daily routines. You know, so this is a great time to bring that sweetness, refresh your work environment. I'm not talking about your career. I'm talking about your desk. What's the work environment around you looking like? Is it scattered? That's a very Gemini tendency, right? What could be sweetened up or improved in terms of your self-care habits? Maybe you're inviting more joy into your life in terms of a wellness practice, something like that, right? You're listening to things that calm your nervous system instead of stress it out. Relationships with coworkers or clients or those you are working on projects with can soften now, and there's more charm and curiosity flowing between you. So let this transit be a time where you can let your energy be more nurturing, because your energy deserves nurturing too. Avoid overcommitting to other people and their needs and being highly, highly analytical. Instead, try to let the energy and the conversation flow. When we get to the 4th, we've got Neptune stepping retrograde at that 2 degrees of Aries, lighting up your 4th house space. Now, as Neptune begins its retrograde in your 4th house, it draws this focus to emotional truths, but they are about your home or your family story, the things that run deep for us in the bottom of the chart. So a question that comes with Neptune is thinking about what illusions have you built like a foundation in your life on, right? And it's like, that's not real for me anymore. What roles have you outgrown in your family dynamic? It's a deeply healing time to reflect. It's a time to journal. It's a time to reconnect with your family, your inner child, your ancestry. But it's really about softening where we've had these strongholds on beliefs or identities, and we need to let clarity come to us gently. It comes quietly, so just make a little bit of space over this next handful of months to allow that to happen. Now, on the 7th, you don't need to make gently space for anything, because Uranus is going to move into Gemini, into your 6th house, and this is going to spark long-term innovation. And yes, I use that word spark, electrify, plug in, right? It's going to get things moving around your health, your routines, your mental health and wellness, the way that you're of service to people, the work that you're doing, how you're doing your work, new tools, new opportunities. Radical shifts in how you manage your daily life could walk right up to your front door. And it may feel chaotic at first. Likely it will feel chaotic at first, but ultimately it's an invitation to free yourself from an outdated system. That's what Uranus does. It comes with that lightning bolt and it breaks down what is here, and it's stagnant now. So this is actually time to build a life that you actually want to wake up to. Now, when we're dealing with Uranus, I'm going to always tell you your way forward is to stay curious and stay flexible. Those are the 2 words that go with Uranus, because trying to resist change is absolutely futile. And trying to resist anything because it feels disruptive, that's not it. That is not it. Stay curious and stay flexible. As we get to the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of your sign, Capricorn, so right here in the 1st house. The full moon asks us to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment, right? So there's a culmination here of identity, your personal power, something around your self-growth. You may be contemplating a major life chapter shift. You're stepping into some kind of new role, new leadership role. Or you are simply, Capricorn, like owning your truth with fresh clarity. And it's not even like you've been denying your truth. It's just that life has been going on and you're seeing, oh, I'm comfortable with this truth. This is actually what's real for me today. So it's a powerful time. It's a powerful lunation to shed what no longer fits you. Habits, personas, expectations. Let them go. You're allowed to evolve. Let this be your renewal. On the 13th, we've got Saturn going retrograde at 1 degrees of Aries, lighting up that 4th house space as well. Now, Saturn, not only because it's your ruling planet, but because Saturn is Saturn. Saturn is going to bring a deepening to the themes around family, home, family, real estate, property, personal roots, what grounds you and makes you feel safe, right? So this can bring up responsibilities. It can bring up boundaries. It can bring up unfinished emotional work from the past. But it also offers a time to grieve if that's what you need to do, to redefine safety on your own terms and then build around that, because you're just not meant to carry everything by yourself. Let gentleness be your guide here to restructuring this, right? But be kind of fierce in your restructuring. First, it's going to start this retrograde in Aries, and then it will slide back into Pisces. So you'll be able to soften your mind and let that gentleness be a part of your rebuild. On the 18th, we've got Mercury moving into the vibration of retrograde. Mercury's going retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo. So as Mercury is going to begin this retrograde, it's going to go through your 8th house. And this is pulling your attention back to intimacy and assets. Any place you have a shared resource, whether that is sex, whether that is trauma, whether that is death, debt, taxes, or detox, where you have deep emotional contracts with other people, financial engagements, trust issues, psychological patterns, they are all right here in the 8th house. And this retrograde is bringing your attention back to these things. So it's a time to ask, what am I afraid to say or see in my deeper bonds or connections? And it's also a great time to go back and realize that honesty is going to create freedom here, right? Like avoid hiding behind silence or control here. Silent scorn, I'm going to just not say anything to my partner. I'm going to just not say anything about that. Speak the truth, even when it shakes up the surface a little bit, because there will be some conversations that you're likely going back over in this particular arena. Now, on the 22nd, we've got the sun entering into Leo, and on the 24th, we've got a new moon happening in Leo. Everything is lighting up this 8th house space over here. But at this new moon, which will be at 2 degrees, you have the opportunity to plant your seeds of intention for really deep healing in your intimate relationships. Authentic intimacy, vulnerability, whether it's in business or love or your relationships, this particular new moon is a beautiful portal for closeness if you lean in. At this new moon, what fears are you ready to release about being vulnerable? What support systems for yourself? This is the 8th house. What support systems are you ready to build? I always think about passive income. Where can you build something that's a passive income? You're deeply connected to it, but it works even when you sleep. Where have you been carrying something too much by yourself and you're realizing you don't have to carry it all alone? You can lean into some closeness and a sharing of that energy. All right, on the 30th, bit of a busy day. We've got Venus entering into Cancer, so gliding the way into this 7th house. Relationships soften. That comes into focus for us. This could be a beautiful season as Venus is traveling here through this Cancerian energy where you are making new commitments, right? You're like, yeah, I'm willing to take this on. Or maybe you're simply remembering what connection is supposed to feel like: nurturing, mutual, and respectful. If you did need to have any kind of conversations, especially ones that need a little bit of healing, Venus in Cancer is a beautiful time to be able to do that. But the biggest thing I think I want to ask you to consider this month, especially with Venus here, is to speak from love, not fear. And what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you, Capricorn, to lead with grace, right? Instead of the emotional reactivity? What would that look like? How would that change your life this month? Let me know about that in the comment section down below. Okay, we're also going to see as we close out that Chiron is going retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, lighting up that 4th house space. Now, Chiron at 27 degrees of Aries, this is pretty well advanced. Chiron's been working on this wound for a while, so you're not just looking from the wound now. There's been some healing here. So as you're experiencing this transit, you may also find that you are not just the wounded, but the teacher as well, okay? So with Chiron's retrograde here, it can be calling you back to old family wounds or dynamics, or even, it's Chiron, I would think some deep rooted insecurities, and they've really shaped your sense of safety. This isn't about, though, let's get back in there and relive the pain. It's about tending to it with presence. You know, you can heal without having all of the answers. You can grow beautiful roots of new safety and security and identity where there was only survival for a long time. You know, this is a sacred invitation, I think, to understand yourself and where you've come from and where you root down today more fully. So it's a busy month, a lot going on. The energies will be moving. The global terrain will be the global terrain. Hopefully you've checked out the Mundane Minute at the beginning of the video with our friend Dan Waits. And let me know how the month is shaping up for you in the comment section down below, my beautiful Capricorn friends. My absolutely beautiful Aquarian friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025. And July is tender and a powerful month. And I think that the question that it asks you to come back to all month long is where you're able to come back to your relationship with your creativity, with your voice, with your partnerships, with your own inner stillness. There is so much of the world stirring in action right now. And I feel like this month, the energies are gently pulling you inward for a more deep reflection and reconnection. Now, Venus and one of your ruling planets, Uranus, are going to light up your fifth house space. You don't need to do anything there. Creative dissonance, resonance, innovation, they are all going to happen. So if you've been feeling blocked, uninspired, or like things are not in motion, don't you worry, that's going to be handled. But at the same time, your 12th house and your 3rd house are both activated this month with a lot of quiet retrograde energy. So this can be a time where you're actually having to grieve some unspoken truths, rest your mind, heal the way that you communicate. And then we cannot miss the fact that Leo season kicks off this month. So your 7th house, conscious chosen one-on-one relationships, Mercury, the sun, the new moon, they're all going to focus you back into your conscious chosen one-on-one relationship dynamics. Let's jump in, Aquarius, and talk about what these dates have to offer for you. Now, right here at the beginning of the month on the 4th, we're going to see that Venus enters into fellow air energy Gemini. This is going to light up your 5th house space, getting ready to make space for Uranus to come in here. Now, as Venus is lighting up this space, it sparks this wave of flirtation and fun and inspiration into your joy, pleasure, play, creative expression zone. For some of you, this will be around children and things that are happening for your children. So it's a beautiful energy to follow the spark, right? Say yes to pleasure, say yes to play. You're invited back into your joy, but this time it's with wisdom. There's a lot of freedom. It's a beautiful energy for romance, for art, for reconnecting with what really does make you feel alive. So I'm really curious to see what this is going to be for you. So please keep me posted, okay? Now, we're also going to see here on the 4th that Neptune is going to go retrograde at 2 degrees of Aries. This lights up your 3rd house space. Now, Neptune retrograde brings a quiet review in your 3rd house, which is about communications, writing, negotiation, things with your siblings, your neighbors, your local community networks, and things like that. So confusion around messages or confusion around internal narratives that you've had for quite some time, those could start to rise to the surface, but they're only rising up to help you get clear. Like it's almost like your ego's wanting to hold on to them in some way, like, no, this is my identity. And this is helping to soften that and get you a little bit more clarity. It really is an invitation to rewrite the story that you tell yourself, but you're going to rewrite it with one that is rooted in your truth, not in this like distortion. Okay. When we get to the 7th, Uranus enters into Gemini. Wow, this launches a long cycle of really radical creative freedom, your self-expression. I'm getting teary talking about this for you. I don't know why I'm welling up for you, but man, the places where you get to be really deeply authentic, maybe even from spaces they're unexpected to you. You become electric in this area. Children, lovers, art, things you want to begin. Maybe you want to conceive something. Maybe you want to conceive a person, an adoption. You want to conceive a new business. Embrace it. This is your joy in evolution. So Uranus is our spark of genius. Let your genius move through you. Now, what you want to avoid when we're working with Uranian energy, and I know it's one of your ruling planets, but we can all get caught up, is trying to be controlling. Don't try to control what inspiration looks like and how it comes to you. Stay curious and stay flexible here, but definitely expect for the next couple of years that you're just at the beginning of the journey of having a lot of radical shifts in this area of your life, but the genius is here for you. On the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn. This lights up your 12th house space. At the full moon, we're being asked to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment. So we're going to pivot and recommit to a direction here. Now, the 12th house brings this culmination to something that's been hidden. It's behind the scenes. It's more spiritual. It's been a place where there's a behavior or a belief pattern that can be your own undoing. But it can also be in the 12th house where we're having some kind of really profound release. It's time to let go of an old fear pattern, and it's quietly been running the show for a while. It's time to let that go. Ask your spirit, what is going to make me feel free here? And that is a question to be asked in a 12th house manner. It's solitude. Solitude is sacred. It's not about loneliness. This full moon is about, let me take a minute to get quiet so that I can hear what my spirit's asking for. And I'm not just kind of pushing past it and missing this big gulp of freedom that's available for me. On the 13th, we've got Saturn moving retrograde at 1 degree of Aries, lighting up your 3rd house space. Now, a Saturn retrograde being one of your other ruling planets, it's just 1 degree of Aries. It just got here. You know what I mean? So we get to continue the excavation of how you communicate and some of your mental patterns. What beliefs or tone do you use when you're speaking, especially to yourself? Where has that tone or that patterning really worked in your relationships, worked in your writing, or it's time to revise that, right? Where is there an old grudge that's tied to old words that were said, old contracts, old commitments? This is a great time to let the growth and maturity that comes from Saturn reshape your voice. Speak slowly, mean what you say. Let silence be powerful as much as the spoken energy as well. If you can move away from, during the Saturn retrograde, over this next 4 months, a lot of rigidity in your thinking, or that it's only one way, this will be really, really helpful to you. On the 18th, now we've got Mercury going retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo in that 7th house energy. So the 7th house is lit and activated, right? And as Mercury turns retrograde in your relationship house, it's asking you to rethink yet again your conversations, your agreements, your mindsets, especially in those conscious, chosen one-on-one relationships, whether that's business, whether that's personal, whether that's you with whatever you call a higher power. It is still Mercury retrograde, so misunderstandings are available to arise, but they arise for healing and for patience. I would say that this is not the time during this retrograde to be out here demanding answers. Don't do that. Don't demand, because your expectations around getting an answer are really going to cause a problem. This is a fixed fire energy. It's actually the time to ask better questions and then listen deeply. Because what can happen here in the listening deeply and asking the more direct, clear questions is that you let love evolve through the power of communication instead of jumping to conclusion. Now, on the 22nd, we see the sun enter into Leo, and on the 24th, we're going to have a new moon happening at 2 degrees of Leo. Remember, this is a general reading, so please grab your chart and see where 2 degrees of Leo is happening at in that precise house for you. In the general, it lights up that 7th house space. So you've got a beautiful opportunity to plant your seeds of intention in love, in partnership, in business collaboration. You know, you're setting those seeds of intention now for who and how you want to relate with people, because this lunation is ripe with potential for really important, significant connections for you, right? But they're heart-centered. They're courageous connections where vulnerability is your strength in this, where you choose honesty over perfection. We're leading with love. You're not hiding your needs. It's a very Leo new moon. So plant those dang delicious seeds of intention. Okay, as we're going to close out the month, on the 30th, we've got Venus sliding into Cancer. And I like to think of Venus as a nice gliding, sliding energy. And it's going to light up your 6th house space. This is really helpful for, first of all, making space for softness in your schedule. And that is a great place to play and avoid burnout or come back from burnout. If you're feeling burnt out, it is a key that your intuition has been squished and your play volume needs to come up. So this can help you to restore that beauty and that balance and that softness to your daily life, your work, your routines, your wellness. It's a gentle reminder also to nurture your body and tend to the small things, like really lotion in between your toes, right? What do the bottom of your feet look like right now? Are they ashy? Are they crunchy? Right? It's okay. Take time, slow down, love on every inch of the skin that you're in. It's also a time where I think sometimes, work just feels sweeter. Your coworkers, you're like, I don't know, you're not that bad right now. Let it happen. Let it come to you. Now, in a very practical way, Venus is still about that money. So more work contracts or the finishing of contracts or financial deals can be coming to you as well. So if you would like that, call them to you. Now, the other transit happening this day is that Chiron is going retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries. And again, this is in your 3rd house space. Now, as Chiron retrogrades through this Aries energy, at 27 degrees, it's pretty well advanced. So it's not just the wound. You have some healing and you have some teacher in you now. You're to the other side of not just experiencing the wound, but also being able to teach and talk about it, right? So here it's highlighting old wounds around your voice, around speaking up, around being heard, being allowed to take up space, believing that you get to be here, damn it, and your voice matters. So this is also going to be a time where I think you realize that your words hold medicine today. Whether you think it's big, small, important or not, you know something and that can save someone else from tragedy. The nature of this in the 3rd house as well, and just with all the energies that are going on, have me very attracted to how deep the healing around your nervous system can be right now. And what kind of early messaging, were you sending your nervous system that you're still living out of? And it's just about survival, not thrival. You get to reclaim your story under this, rewrite that script. Don't minimize the truths of what your body, your nervous system are telling you about who you are and how you function. Instead, rewrite it. There's medicine in using your own words with yourself as well. All right, my absolutely beautiful Aquarian friends, it's going to be a month. Every month that we get is a month, isn't it? So it's going to be another month. I can't wait to see what you do with it, what manifests for you. There's a lot going on out in the world that you cannot control, but what's happening in your heart and in your home, this is where we can focus our attention. All right, beautiful friends, I will see you in August. Hello, my beautiful Pisces friends, and welcome to your horoscope for July of 2025, where Pisces, this is a month of restabilizing your foundation, your resources, and your daily rhythm. But it's also kind of a destabilizing energy because we're going to have Uranus move into Gemini and light up your 4th house space, home, family, real estate, property, your ancestry. So family dynamics, rooting dynamics may be at the beginning of their shift, right? Like some of you, it'll be very practical. You might move, you might rearrange your place, or simply wake up to truths about where you belong. The thing I want to just offer you in the beginning is you're a mutable sign. So I think that is to your benefit, because staying fluid and staying flexible without abandoning yourself is really going to be a big theme this month. Now, we're also going to see that Mercury is going to go retrograde, lighting up your sixth house space, along with the sun and the new moon also happening in that sixth house as well. And we are going to have some powerful retrogrades activating, bringing your attention back to that second house, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron, all coming back to restabilizing those foundations and resources. So let's jump in, my beautiful friends, and see what the month has to offer. Right at the beginning of the month on the 4th, we've got Venus entering into Gemini, lighting up your 4th house space. Now, as Venus is moving here, it is bringing a sweetness and a harmony to your home space, to these family dynamics. This is a beautiful time where maybe you're even beautifying your own space and you're feeling like, oh, I just want to make this feel like it's more mine, right? Some of you may be having really heart-opening conversations with your loved ones, or there's just this reimagining as to what this area of your life can look like and feel like. So if you have been in a position where you've been feeling emotionally scattered, this transit, I think, can remind you that home is also a feeling that you cultivate, not just the foundations that you live in. Venus will help you soften that, though, right? Now, one of the things that I think is really important to pay attention to is to be making sure that not only your home and your physical space, but the home in your body is a sanctuary. It's not just a storage unit for past pain, right? As things come up, as you're experiencing them in your home sector, old longings that you've had, things about healing in your relationships, dynamics in your relationships, they're not here to haunt you. They're here to teach you, and they're here to be softened so that you can have a new experience with them. Also on the 4th, we've got Neptune, one of your ruling planets, retrograding at 2 degrees of Aries, so lighting up your second house space. Now, because this is the place of money and values and the way you allow money to flow towards you, initiating a few months long review of how you earn, how you spend, how you define your own worth is really what's on the agenda. And I want to say that this retrograde is not about fear. It's Neptune. This is about faith. Where have you placed your security, your faith and security that was maybe an illusion? Where have you forgotten your own inherent beautiful value? Well, it's time to use this transit to ask yourself spiritually where you can realign with your personal resources. If you felt disconnected spiritually, or you felt disconnected from practical matters, I think that this is a time to kind of ground back into that, ground your dreams into more of a reality. Trust your intuition around your money, because that is a strong value to have in check for sure. When we get to the 7th, Uranus comes into Gemini, and this is a major transit for the year. It's been here for the first time in 84 years. So for those of you who are 84 and up, you are going to be experiencing a return, which is absolutely a beautiful thing. But either way, it's going to shake up your concept of home, family, real estate, your roots. This is the beginning of a long cycle of redefinition of how you live, who you live with, where you belong. What does family even mean to you? So expect these unexpected moves or changes to things in your rooting systems, in your home. Expect breakthroughs in your family systems or the family stories. Expect revelations about your ancestry and those things that can unfold. But the point here, I think, as you're beginning to experience this transit, because we've got years to invest in it, is to trust that any of the upheaval that is coming is sacred. It is designed to liberate you from inherited stories, inherited beliefs that actually no longer fit. They are keeping you small. You can't grow with them. You're trying to grow against them. So the roots have to be changed. On the 10th, we've got a full moon happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn, lighting up your 11th house space. Now, this full moon is going to ask you to end something, acknowledge something, or to make an adjustment, right? We need to pick a new path and start to pivot on it, right? Or we need to let a culmination come. So a culmination or an ending around a friendship, around a community or an organization that you've been attached to, a community goal that you had. You thought, well, this is the goal that I have in my life. This is the aspiration I have. So I need to be a part of this community. And they don't fit the long-term vision anymore. So you're changing this social circle. I also like to throw social media in here as well. You may see, as the result of a group effort, or you just realize truly that it's time to lovingly release a connection or a friendship that is just no longer on the path. But here's the thing about it. It's ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Aries on its way to a retrograde in just a couple days. There's a deep sense of responsibility here, right? It's this reminder that your aspirations require structure, that your friendships need to be mature enough for you to know that you're in the right place. If you want to play with the adults, you got to play with the adults. That a legacy that you want to leave demands collaboration, but it's got to be with the right tribe of people. I also just want to point out, with all this Saturnian energy, to celebrate what you have built up until now in this area of your life. Celebrate your friends. Celebrate the community groups that you have built, because you've changed and you have built something, and it's worthy of celebration. On the 13th, we'll have Saturn take that retrograde at 1 degree of Aries, and this will be again in that second house space. Now, Saturn, as it continues this retrograde over this next 4 months, is about deepening your maturity around Aries concepts, self-reliance, money, internal resourcefulness. This is where you really take accountability, not just for your income, but for your sense of enoughness as well. Right now, we've only gotten to this 1 degree of Aries, and then Saturn's going to slide back into Pisces. So you're going to get to review this. But I want you to know that this beginning portion of the retrograde is about letting you know that your worth and who you are and your innate value are non-negotiable. You can revisit budgets and values and commitments and ask yourself what really sustains you, not just financially, but emotionally. But it's also that no matter how much patience or discipline you're being called to with this transit, you are meant to build something that lasts, because your worth is non-negotiable. It is still a retrograde, so it can bring financial delays. It can bring delays to things that you are trying to put in place in strategy as Saturn gets back into Pisces. But just remember, no matter what, you're deepening your maturity in understanding that your worth is non-negotiable. On the 18th, we've got Mercury going retrograde at 15 degrees of Leo, lighting up this 6th house space. So this is going to stir up your schedule. Your health habits, your work routine, your daily routines. Make some space for miscommunications, especially in your daily routine, especially on the job, especially with coworkers. Technology and timing may be a little bit off with things, but it's not a punishment. It's just all about resetting things that are no longer serving. Your body might be speaking a lot louder right now, Pisces. Listen to it. This is a time to let efficiency serve your well-being, not your ego, right? Leo can stand in the ego. I mean, what do you do when you're the sun? Geez, right? So we got to back up and go, hold on, is this efficient? Is there joy? Is there pleasure? Is there nutrition in my movement? Is there nutrition in my rest? If it's just about my ego, my body might be telling me that I've done too much, and we've got to have a look at that. Now, on the 22nd, to add a little fuel to this fire, the sun will move into Leo. And then on the 24th, we've got a new moon happening at 2 degrees of Leo. Your opportunity to plant your seeds of intention for healing in your body, in your mind, in your habits, in your purpose. And I think also this remembering that small changes make your daily routine align more with your life, right? It's the small changes that will bring that outer explanation into alignment with your inner radiance. So it's an excellent time to plant those seeds of intention, not to punish you for your flaws, but to live in more of a playful devotion to your well-being. On the 30th, bit of a busy day. We've got Venus moving into the vibration of Cancer, welcoming again a lovely dose of play, pleasure, and pleasure and love into your life. So, maybe after a time, certainly with Venus in Taurus, certainly with Venus in Gemini, certainly after all that Venus in Aries retrograde that we've done, Venus has been on the workout track. There has been so much inner and outer realignment that I feel like this Venus in Cancer time is your moment to exhale. Exhale, create beauty just because you can, because it feels good. You may find joy in children, in romance, in art, in something that just feels fun again. Don't overanalyze it. Just let your heart lead. Let your inner child speak. If there are things going on with your children, let their voice be a luxury. Let it be a part of healing, right? When we're listening to what our children are signaling to us, we are also healing ourselves, generations, and all of these concepts. Now, we're also on the same day going to have Chiron going retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, again in this second house space. Now, the fact that Chiron is at 27 degrees of Aries, I think is something important to pay attention to, because 27 degrees is pretty well advanced. Chiron has been working on your identity around your money, your worth, your value, your body, the way you allow money and value to flow to you. It's been working on this for quite some time. So you're not just working now, Pisces, from the wound, right? Now you may be in a position where some of your wound is healed up. So you're the wounded and the teacher who teaches others how to look at that wound differently, or how to heal and make it an asset instead of a liability. Now, as Chiron is going through here in your second house with this retrograde, it's inviting that deep healing around the wounds of self-worth. But I also think very Aries, where have you, in terms of money or your worth or your value, lived in a place of survival instincts? And the question around the healing today in the retrograde is going to be, how safe do you feel inside of your own body in order to be able to receive and let this area of your life flow to you differently? Because wounds around value, especially tied to childhood or early financial trauma, they may stir up at this time. They're catching your attention, but I don't think that they hurt as deeply or as bad during this particular transit. And instead, it's your opportunity to release that shame because you can see it more quickly, restore your confidence, and reclaim your right to be fully resourced on your own, or to learn that. Maybe you're teaching it to someone else, and while you're teaching this to someone else, you're also remembering, while you're telling them that they are enough, you're remembering that you are enough. You always were. You always were, but there's something very tender, but yet direct and forceful about this retrograde. And sometimes by extending the tenderness out to other people, we're able to bring the experience of that astrology and that healing into ourselves. All right, my beautiful Piscean friends, I hope you have a gorgeous month. Please let me know how it goes in the comment section down below. And I look forward to seeing you every week, where we can get into the finer tuning of what July has to offer.